I won't waste your time. Just don't skip. Because if even one of these 363 facts could change what you think you know, why risk missing it?
So many questions. Why is the world spinning? Why is the moon keeping its orbit? Can rockets fly backwards? The facts you didn't know you needed. The Useless Show.
Zoroastrians built round stone structures called towers of silence, where they placed dead bodies to be eaten by vultures. It wasn't laziness, it was environmental philosophy. Burying or burning corpses was considered a form of pollution to earth, fire, and water, which were seen as sacred. This method, used in Persia and India for over 1,000 years, was basically sky-based composting. The Gulf Stream is an ocean current that moves more water than all the rivers on Earth combined, roughly 150 times more, in fact. It keeps northern Europe warm and hurricanes organized. But if too much polar ice melts, it could stall, causing sudden climate chaos. This has happened before, about 12,000 years ago, during the Younger Dryas event. The Red Queen hypothesis, coined by evolutionary biologist Lee Van Valen in 1973, suggests that species must constantly adapt just to avoid falling behind, a biological treadmill. It's named after a character in Through the Looking Glass who runs just to stay in place. In nature, if you stop evolving, you're not just slow, you're lunch. Ninjas of medieval Japan are often remembered for stealth and clever tricks, though many stories mix folklore with history. While ninjutsu encompassed practical espionage, creative methods like disappearing messages remain legendary. Ninjas' resourcefulness continues to inspire imagination, though reality was likely grounded in simple observations, disguises, and knowledge of terrain. Terrain, not Hollywood-style gadgets. The Code of Ur-Nammu, written around 2100 BCE in Sumer, is the oldest known legal code, predating Hammurabi by about 300 years. Instead of an eye for an eye, most offenses were settled with fines. Think of it as the ancient world's version of getting a parking ticket instead of public flogging. In Minoan Crete, bull leaping was a remarkable ritual and athletic feat, depicted vividly in palace frescoes at Knossos. Participants, both male and female, likely grasped a bull's horns and vaulted over its back, symbolizing harmony with nature and perhaps marking rites of passage. This ancient tradition, alive around 1500 BCE. Ancient Polynesians navigated across thousands of kilometers of open ocean, without compasses, maps, or GPS. They used star paths, ocean swells, bird movements, and even the color of clouds. This knowledge was passed down through chants and memorized by navigators known as wayfinders. Western sailors were still getting lost, while these folks had satellite precision with no satellites. The Sifaka lemur of Madagascar doesn't walk like other animals. On the ground, it hops upright with its arms raised like it's auditioning for a modern dance recital. But in trees, it's all business. Powerful legs and long fingers for vertical leaping. This weird gait evolved because trees were its real home. Ground travel was just an awkward in-between. Many songbirds practice anting, picking up ants or sitting on ant hills so formic acid from the insects soaks into their feathers. This natural behavior may help control parasites and soothe skin during molting, illustrating how birds creatively use their environment for self-care and demonstrating the intelligence behind avian hygiene strategies. Built over a millennium ago in Rajasthan, Chandbauri is an architectural marvel. an inverted pyramid of 3,500 plus steps descending 13 levels. Beyond water storage, its deep structure creates a cooling effect, lowering temperatures by several degrees at the base. This monumental stepwell remains a testament to ancient ingenuity in combining utility and climate adaptation. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, archaeologist Ralph Selecki uncovered a Neanderthal burial site in Shanidar Cave, located in the Zagros Mountains of northern Iraq. One individual, known as Shanidar IV, was found with clumps of ancient pollen, leading to early interpretations of a ritual burial involving flowers. Although later studies have questioned whether the pollen was introduced by rodents or natural processes, the find remains a key reference in debates over Neanderthal symbolic behavior and cognitive depth. The WADA test involves putting one half of your brain to sleep temporarily using a drug like amobarbital, so doctors can figure out where your language skills live before brain surgery. Developed by June Wada in the 1940s, the test has revealed that not everyone stores language on the left side. Some brains, it seems, enjoy rearranging the furniture. Ancient Greeks may have believed in cyclopes because of prehistoric elephant skulls. These fossils, found in places like Crete, have a large central nasal cavity, perfect for a giant single eye if you don't know what a trunk is. Add a few generations of storytelling, and suddenly you've got a one-eyed giant instead of a really congested elephant. Since the early 2000s, researchers have explored the use of bacteria such as Sporosarsina pasteurii to produce biocement by inducing the precipitation of calcium carbonate. This process, known as microbial-induced calcite precipitation, can bind loose materials like sand or repair microcracks in concrete. While biocement shows potential for applications like self-healing structures and carbon-neutral construction, its use remains largely experimental and is currently limited to small-scale or pilot projects rather than full-scale concrete replacement. The Siberian ice maiden, discovered in 1993 in the Altai Mountains Ukok Plateau, is a remarkably preserved 2,400-year-old mummy from the Pazyryk culture. Her skin bears intricate tattoos, and she was buried with finely crafted garments, jewelry, and 6 horses. While no cannabis was found in her specific tomb, other Pazyryk burial sites, such as those at Beryl, have contained cannabis remains, suggesting its ritual or medicinal use within the broader culture. In the 13th century, Arab polymath al-Jazari built water-powered robots, including mechanical musicians and a hand-washing automaton. These devices weren't just decorative, they used early feedback mechanisms, making them programmable by the standards of the time. His book, The Book of Knowledge of Ingenious Mechanical Devices, outlined over 50 inventions, predating European automation by centuries. Around 1000 BCE, an Egyptian mummy was buried with a wooden toe prosthesis attached to her foot. Far from symbolic, this device showed wear from daily use, with joints designed to move with each step. Found near Luxor, it's one of the earliest known examples of biomechanical engineering, evidence that even 3,000 years ago, people disliked stubbed toes. The Indus Valley Civilization standardized weights and measures across more than 1,000 cities, using finely carved chert cubes and bronze rods. These tools followed a consistent decimal system, even though the civilization left no known written numerals. This mathematical precision, seen as early as 2600 BCE, allowed for uniform trade, construction, and taxation. By the 1700s, sailors used a method called the noon sight to measure the sun's angle at its highest point, helping determine their latitude. Longitude, however, remained elusive until John Harrison invented the marine chronometer, an accurate sea clock. Before that, sailors relied on dead reckoning, which was more of a hopeful guess than a navigational method. The element tantalum was named after Tantalus, a Greek mythological figure cursed with unreachable water. True to the name, tantalum resists corrosion and refuses to drink even the strongest acids. It's now used in electronics and surgical implants, where being chemically aloof is a highly desirable trait. In 1974, the Arecibo radio telescope sent a binary-coded signal toward the M13 star cluster, a cosmic hello traveling 25,000 light-years. The message included DNA structure, solar system details, and a pixelated sketch of a human. If aliens reply, we'll be here in 50,000 years, or our descendants will, hopefully. According to the Toba catastrophe theory, a volcanic eruption in present-day Indonesia about 74,000 years ago may have drastically reduced the global human population. Volcanic ash darkened skies and cooled the climate, causing what's called a genetic bottleneck. Although some scientists debate the scale, there's clear evidence of sudden environmental stress across multiple species. In 15th century Korea, rainfall was measured using a standardized instrument called the chugugi, developed in 1441 under King Sejong. It was essentially a metal cylinder placed in government offices to track precipitation. It remains the oldest known rain gauge, a reminder that meteorology existed long before the weather app. The Pintupi Nine, a group of indigenous Australians, lived a fully traditional nomadic life in the Western Desert until 1984. Unaware that modern Australia existed, they hunted with spears and knew no roads or towns. When they finally encountered the outside world, their entire society had remained intact, preserved by desert isolation, not time travel. Ancient Egyptian doctors demonstrated remarkable medical ingenuity using linen and honey, a natural antiseptic, to dress wounds. Some texts also describe applying moldy bread to infections, aligning with principles later discovered in antibiotics. While specifics remain debated, their resourceful approach highlights early empirical insights into wound care and infection control, blending creativity with pragmatic healing. In the Muisca Confederation of what is now Colombia, people crafted gold-plated offerings called tunjos, flat figurines of warriors, animals, and gods. Made using the lost wax method, these were left in sacred lakes and temples. The Muisca didn't use gold as currency. They treated it as spiritual tribute, long before the Spanish arrived seeking wealth rather than symbolism. The dendrogramma, discovered near Australia in 2014, is a deep-sea creature shaped like a disc with branching internal canals. Scientists couldn't fit it into any known phylum, which is biology speak for we have no idea what this is. It might represent an ancient lineage or something entirely new. Either way, it's the zoological equivalent of a lost USB format. Jellyfish operate without a brain, heart, or central nervous system. Instead, they rely on a loose network of nerves called a nerve net, spread throughout their gelatinous body. This decentralized setup lets them respond to light, touch, and movement, all without centralized thinking. It's evolution's way of saying, thinking is optional if you just want to float. During World War I, military camouflage took inspiration from Cubist painters like André Malraux. Warships were painted with bold, angular dazzle patterns, not to hide them, but to confuse enemy rangefinders. The ships looked like floating Picasso sketches, and the idea was that if you couldn't disappear, you might as well be unreadable. The Claroterion was a stone slab used in ancient Athens to assign jurors and officials randomly. Citizens' tokens were inserted into rows, and dice were rolled through a chute to select names. This was democratic selection via marble and gravity, a mechanical way to prevent corruption in a world without spreadsheets. Atlantic puffins have brightly colored beaks during breeding, with orange, yellow, and blue pigments. Additionally, parts of their beaks fluoresce under ultraviolet light, invisible to humans but visible to puffins, playing a role in mate selection and communication within the avian UV spectrum. In the Karakum Desert of Central Asia, ancient engineers built underground channels called curiosities to carry water across arid terrain. These ceramic-lined tunnels used gravity and insulation to prevent evaporation. Dating back centuries, they're an early example of sustainable water management, basically plumbing that outsmarts the sun. Aurora australis, often called the Southern Lights, appears in the skies over Antarctica, Tasmania, and southern parts of New Zealand. It's caused by charged particles from the sun interacting with Earth's magnetic field, especially near the poles. These collisions excite atmospheric gases, producing soft glows in green, red, or violet. The phenomenon mirrors aurora borealis in the northern hemisphere, but is less commonly seen due to its remote viewing locations. The Aleutian Islands in Alaska extend across both the 180-degree meridian and the international date line. This unique geography allows for the technical possibility of standing with one foot in today and the other in yesterday, depending on which side of the line one is on. The island's time zone placement is adjusted for practicality, but their physical location still reflects this rare chronological boundary. The ancient Lycians, inhabiting southwestern Anatolia, practiced a form of matrilineal social organization unusual among Indo-European cultures. As recorded by Herodotus in History's Book 1, Section 173. Lycians identified themselves through their mothers rather than their fathers, inheriting names and status maternally. Archaeological analysis of Lycian tomb inscriptions also reflects this emphasis, often listing maternal ancestry. While the full extent of their matrilineal system remains debated, both textual and epigraphic evidence support a significant maternal role in Lycian identity and inheritance. New Zealand's Champagne Pool, located in the Waiō-Tapu geothermal area, is named for the steady stream of carbon dioxide bubbles that rise from its surface, resembling sparkling wine. The pool's vivid orange border is formed by mineral deposits, mainly arsenic and antimony sulfides. It was formed about 900 years ago by a hydrothermal eruption and remains around 74 degrees Celsius year-round. The Millennium Seed Bank, located at Wakehurst in the United Kingdom, stores over 2.5 billion seeds from more than 39,000 plant species. Seeds are dried and kept at -20 degrees Celsius to preserve them for decades or longer. It was established in the year 2000 by the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew, to serve as a global safeguard for plant diversity in the face of climate change and habitat loss. Paraceratherium, a genus of hornless rhinoceros that lived over 20 million years ago, is considered the largest land mammal ever recorded. Estimates suggest it stood over 16 feet tall at the shoulder and weighed more than 20 tons. Fossils have been found across Central Asia, and its massive size likely helped it reach tall vegetation in forested environments. Meganeura, an extinct genus of dragonfly-like insects, lived around 300 million years ago during the Carboniferous period. Fossils show wingspans of over 70 centimeters. Their large size was likely made possible by higher atmospheric oxygen levels at the time, which reached up to 35%, significantly higher than today's 21%. Certain bacteria, such as Geobacter sulfur reducens, can produce electricity by transferring electrons to metal surfaces. This process allows them to be used in microbial fuel cells, which have powered small devices and sensors in isolated or extreme environments. Research into these organisms continues, especially for sustainable energy applications in low-power settings. The thylacine, also known as the Tasmanian tiger, was a marsupial predator native to Tasmania. It was declared extinct in 1936, when the last known specimen died in captivity. Despite its extinction status, occasional unverified sightings are still reported. Genetic material from preserved specimens is being studied to explore possibilities of de-extinction using genome editing techniques. The Astuvansalmi rock carvings, situated on a lakeside cliff in South Savonia, Finland, are more than 5,000 years old and represent one of the most extensive collections of prehistoric art in the Nordic region. These petroglyphs feature figures such as humans, elk, boats, and abstract symbols, offering insight into the worldview of ancient hunter-gatherers. While their exact meanings remain under study, the carvings reflect a complex symbolic culture and continue to inspire research into early Northern European societies. The skull of Sahelanthropus chidensis, found in Chad and dated to around 7 million years ago, may represent one of the earliest known hominins capable of walking upright. The foramen magnum, the hole where the spinal cord connects to the skull, is positioned in a way that suggests bipedal movement. This find helps researchers better understand the timeline of human evolution. In ancient Maya cities, people built choltons, underground chambers shaped like bottles, to collect and store rainwater. These structures had narrow openings to reduce evaporation and often included plaster coatings that helped filter sediment. They were especially useful in areas with seasonal rainfall and limited access to natural surface water sources. The okapi, native to the rainforests of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, has a tongue long enough to clean its own eyes and ears. Its tongue is blue-black in color, which helps protect it from sun exposure and keeps it moist. This adaptation supports grooming and feeding among dense foliage where flexibility and reach are essential. The Ainu people of Japan traditionally practice tattooing among women as part of spiritual and marital customs. Tattoos were often applied around the mouth, arms, and hands and were believed to offer protection against evil spirits. These practices were formally banned during the Meiji era in the 19th century as part of state-led assimilation efforts that targeted Ainu culture and identity. Kujirajima, or Whale Island, is a tidal island off the coast of Japan that disappears during high tide. It has been used historically for private rituals and appears in local folklore as a shifting, elusive place that could mislead travelers. Its periodic visibility and small size contribute to its role in cultural stories about impermanence and the unknown. The Bharhut Stupa in Madhya Pradesh, India, dates to the 2nd century BCE and includes early stone carvings that depict scenes from the Buddha's previous lives. These stories, known as Jataka tales, are arranged in visual narratives around the stupa's railings. The carvings offer insight into the spread of Buddhist storytelling and iconography during that period. The ozone hole over Antarctica reached its largest extent in the early 2000s, mainly due to the use of chlorofluorocarbons in refrigerants and aerosols. The Montreal Protocol, signed in 1987, led to a gradual phase-out of these chemicals. Since then, satellite data has shown a consistent recovery of the ozone layer, a rare case of global environmental policy showing long-term effectiveness. In 2014, researchers announced the discovery of Pithivirus sibericum, a giant virus recovered from 30,000-year-old Siberian permafrost. This virus, which infects amoeba, was still capable of replication after thawing. Though not harmful to humans, its revival raised concerns about ancient pathogens potentially re-emerging from melting permafrost due to climate change. Earlier giant viruses were discovered in 2012, but those did not originate from permafrost layers. Nabta Playa, a prehistoric site in southern Egypt, is home to the world's oldest known astronomical observatory. Built over 7,000 years ago, its stone circle aligns with the summer solstice and predates Stonehenge by nearly 2,000 years. It was likely used by nomadic herders to track seasonal rains. Ancient weather forecasting without the app. Veluwezoom National Park in the Netherlands contains a forest that didn't grow by accident. Planted to stop Napoleonic-era sand drifts in the early 19th century, the forest eventually developed into a stable ecosystem of heath, dunes, and old-growth trees. What began as erosion control now offers hiking trails and habitat for wild boar, a long-term landscaping success. The saber-toothed salmon lived several million years ago and could grow up to 3 meters long. It had 2 prominent fang-like teeth, not for feeding, but likely for combat or display during mating. Imagine a fish that didn't bite, but still looked like it could headline a dinosaur documentary. The Sanskrit term anu, meaning atom, appears in Indian philosophical texts dating back over 2,500 years. Jain and Vaisheshika schools describe these atoms as indivisible building blocks of matter forming everything in the universe. This theory was developed independently of Greek atomism and shows how early thinkers tackled complex ideas without microscopes. Haikigani crabs in Japan have shells with striking human-like patterns. Folklore links them to Heike clan warriors, leading fishers to return them to the sea, possibly fostering the survival of face-like traits. While evidence for direct cultural selection is limited, this blend of natural form and myth offers a captivating example of human-animal connection in Japanese tradition. The sundial snail belongs to the genus Archaeotectonica, not Euprotomus. Found in Indo-Pacific marine habitats, Archaeotectonica species are known for their distinctive, flattened spiral shells that resemble antique watch faces. These shells exhibit a near-perfect logarithmic spiral, a mathematical curve also found in galaxies, nautilus shells, and hurricanes. Their striking geometry makes sundial snails notable examples of naturally occurring mathematical patterns in marine life. Troglobites are animals adapted to live exclusively in caves with no light. They often lose eyes and pigmentation and enhance mechanosensation and chemoreception to navigate and find food. While many do not use echolocation, some cave species, such as certain fish and bats, do employ echolocation for orientation. Roman dodecahedrons, 12-faced bronze objects have been found across Europe, but no surviving texts explain their purpose. Theories range from measuring devices to candle holders to ritual artifacts. For now, they remain one of ancient Rome's more geometrically intriguing mysteries, sort of the fidget spinners of the 2nd century. The Aral Sea, once the world's 4th largest lake, lost over 90% of its volume in just 5 decades due to Soviet irrigation projects that diverted inflow rivers. Today, much of the former lakebed is a salt-strewn desert, with rusting fishing boats stranded miles from any shoreline, a textbook example of what not to do with a water system. In 2018, the interstellar object Oumuamua passed through our solar system at over 90,000 kilometers per hour. It exhibited non-gravitational acceleration and a tumbling motion unlike known comets or asteroids. Its elongated shape and odd trajectory led to many theories, though aliens, as always, remain firmly unconfirmed. The Archimedean screw, invented in ancient Greece over 2,000 years ago, lifts water using a rotating spiral mechanism inside a cylinder. Still used today in irrigation and hydropower, it's one of those rare inventions that somehow survived the rise and fall of empires, agricultural revolutions, and countless hardware upgrades. The turquoise killifish can delay its own development through a process called diapause, pausing embryonic growth during dry seasons. This pause can last over a year, allowing it to survive harsh conditions. Its rapid aging and dormancy cycle make it a valuable model in longevity research. Nature's pause button for biology. The Zhangye Danxia landforms in China feature naturally striped sandstone hills colored by mineral layering and tectonic uplift. The formations, often called a painted desert, result from millions of years of geological activity. No, they're not digitally enhanced. The colors are quite real, though light and weather can affect their intensity. In 2020, scientists managed to restore circulation and some cellular activity in pig brains hours after death using a special perfusion system. While no consciousness was detected, the experiment reopened discussions about the boundaries of brain death and organ viability, a reminder that definitions in biology are often more fluid than they seem. The tree of Tenere, once standing alone in Niger's Sahara, was the most isolated tree on Earth. The nearest neighbor was over 400 kilometers away. It served as a navigational landmark until 1973, when it was struck by a truck. The tree has since been replaced with a metal sculpture, which is harder to run over. The Brihadiswarar Temple in Thanjavur, Tamil Nadu, was constructed in the early 11th century during the reign of Raja Rajachola I. Its central tower, or Vimana, stands over 66 meters tall and is made entirely of granite, an architectural achievement given the scale and weight of the materials. The temple's capstone weighs approximately 80 tons, but while it is often claimed that a long ramp was used to raise it, no direct inscriptional or archaeological evidence confirms this method. The exact construction techniques remain uncertain, though ancient builders likely employed a combination of ramps, rollers, and manual labor. An orthosite is a coarse-grained igneous rock composed predominantly of plagioclase feldspar. It forms the bulk of the Moon's highlands, which represent the oldest crustal regions, dating back over 4 billion years. The rock's high albedo contributes significantly to the Moon's bright appearance from Earth. Although rare on Earth, an orthosite occurs in specific regions such as the Adirondack Mountains in New York, the Nain Plutonic Suite in Canada, and parts of southwestern Norway. The Atlantic meridional overturning circulation transports warm surface water northward and returns cold deep water southward. It plays a key role in regulating climate, particularly in Europe. Disruption of the AMOC, such as during the Younger Dryas event approximately 12,000 years ago, has been linked to abrupt cooling periods. Current studies monitor its stability due to freshwater input from melting Arctic ice. PSRJ 174824446 AD is a neutron star located in the globular cluster, Terzan 5. It spins at 716 times per second, making it the fastest known pulsar. Its matter is so dense that a single teaspoon would weigh over 1 billion tons on Earth. Discovered in 2005, it illustrates the extreme rotational and gravitational characteristics of neutron stars. The library of Ashurbanipal, excavated in the ruins of Nineveh in the mid-19th century, contains over 30,000 cuneiform tablets. Compiled under King Ashurbanipal of Assyria in the 7th century BCE, it includes administrative records, scientific texts, and the Epic of Gilgamesh. Its preservation offers key insights into Mesopotamian literature, language, and statecraft. The pygmy seahorse measures less than 2 centimeters and exhibits extreme camouflage by matching the color and texture of Myricella corals. It was first identified in the late 1990s after being noticed on coral collected for aquariums. Its camouflage strategy is an example of morphological adaptation to highly specific habitats. The Nazca lines are geoglyphs located in Peru's Nazca Desert, dated between 200 BCE and 600 CE. They depict animals, plants, and geometric shapes, some extending over 300 meters. Visible primarily from the air, their construction involved removing the reddish surface gravel to expose lighter soil beneath. The purpose remains debated, with theories including astronomical alignment, ritual use, and water mapping. The Spix's macaw was declared extinct in the wild in 2000. Native to Brazil, its population declined due to habitat loss and trapping. Captive breeding programs preserved the species, and reintroduction efforts began in 2020. The species became widely recognized through the 2011 animated film Rio, which helped raise public awareness of its conservation status. The Bosphorus Strait, approximately 30 kilometers long, connects the Black Sea to the Sea of Marmara and ultimately to the Mediterranean. It separates European and Asian Turkey and serves as a key geopolitical waterway. Its strategic position has influenced the historical significance of Istanbul, formerly Constantinople, and Byzantium, as a center of trade and empire since antiquity. The bloodwood tree, native to northern Australia, exudes a red sap when cut due to tannin-rich resin compounds. Indigenous Australian communities use the sap for antiseptic treatment of wounds and skin infections. The tree belongs to the myrtle family and is adapted to arid conditions, with a deep root system and drought-resistant foliage. Palma Nova is a Renaissance star fort in Friuli, Venezia Giulia, Italy, constructed in 1593 under Venetian rule. Designed by Vincenzo Scamozzi, it features a 9-pointed star layout with radial streets for optimal defense and control. The geometric plan reflects Renaissance ideals of symmetry, proportion, and centralized planning in military architecture. The Paris catacombs hold the remains of over 6 million individuals. Between 1786 and 1860, bones were transferred from overflowing cemeteries to limestone quarries beneath the city. Human remains were arranged into walls and decorative formations along roughly 2 kilometers of accessible tunnels, now maintained as a historical site and ossuary. Senet is an ancient Egyptian board game dating back to around 3000 BCE. Played on a 30-square grid, it symbolized the journey through the afterlife. Artifacts of the game have been found in tombs of high-ranking individuals, including Tutankhamun, along with inscriptions indicating religious significance. It is one of the oldest known board games. The kangaroo rat, primarily of the genus Dipodomys, inhabits arid regions of North America. It can live its entire life without drinking water by deriving moisture from metabolic oxidation of seeds. Its kidneys are highly efficient, producing concentrated urine to minimize water loss. The species is a key example of desert adaptation in mammals. The Yake event of 774 CE was identified through a sharp increase in carbon-14 levels in tree rings globally. The spike is believed to result from a solar proton event, much more intense than modern solar flares. It represents one of the largest known cosmic radiation events in the Holocene and provides data for solar activity reconstructions. Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 impacted Jupiter in 1994. The fragments, pulled apart by tidal forces, struck over several days, creating dark scars visible from Earth-based telescopes. This event marked the first direct observation of a collision between two solar system bodies and provided evidence of Jupiter's role in absorbing cometary impacts. Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital founded in 1325 CE, was located on an island in Lake Texcoco. It featured raised causeways, canals, and chinampas, artificial agricultural islands. At its height, it supported a population of over 200,000 and had complex systems for irrigation, transport, and urban planning before its fall to Spanish conquest in 1521. In 2015, a crustacean sampled from the Mariana Trench, over 10,000 meters deep, was found with synthetic plastic fibers in its digestive system. This discovery demonstrated that anthropogenic pollutants have reached the ocean's deepest ecosystems. The finding underscores the global extent of marine microplastic contamination. While the Lombards themselves did not practice intentional cranial deformation, archaeological excavations of early medieval cemeteries in regions under Lombard influence, particularly in Pannonia and northern Italy, have uncovered elongated skulls associated with non-local individuals. These modified crania are attributed to Eastern European or steppe origin populations, likely integrated during the migrations of the 6th century CE. Frogfish of the family Antennareidae possess a modified dorsal spine resembling a worm or lure, which they use to attract prey. They can strike with their jaws in as little as 6 milliseconds, one of the fastest feeding strikes among vertebrates. This ambush strategy allows efficient predation despite their sedentary behavior and camouflage. The Coral Triangle spans marine areas of Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Papua New Guinea, Timor-Leste, and the Solomon Islands. Covering 1.6% of the global ocean, it holds 76% of known coral species and over 2,000 reef fish species. It is considered the global center of marine biodiversity and a conservation priority. The Neolithic flint mines at Spijins, in present-day Belgium, were active from approximately 4,300 to 2,200 before the Common Era. Covering more than 100 hectares, the site contains thousands of vertical shafts and over 10 kilometers of underground galleries. early miners extracted high-quality flint using tools made from stone and red deer antlers. While there is no confirmed evidence of fire-setting techniques at Spiennes, the site remains one of the oldest and largest prehistoric mining complexes in Europe and is designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Thylacoleo carnifex, commonly referred to as the marsupial lion, was an extinct carnivorous marsupial endemic to Australia. Despite its name, it is phylogenetically closer to wombats and koalas than to placental carnivores. It possessed retractable claws and highly developed premolars adapted for shearing bone. Fossil evidence indicates it was a highly specialized predator and apex carnivore during the Pleistocene epoch. The Alhambra, a 14th century Nasrid dynasty complex located in Granada, Spain, features muqarnas, an architectural element composed of intricately carved niches arranged in three-dimensional geometric patterns. These stalactite-like vaults are significant within Islamic architecture for their symbolic representation of infinite complexity and divine order, employing principles of fractal geometry and modular repetition. The Roman Testudo Formation, named after the Latin word for tortoise, was a tactical arrangement employed by infantry units. Soldiers interlocked their shields laterally and overhead to form a continuous protective barrier. This configuration was particularly effective during siege operations and against projectile weapons. Documentation appears in sources such as De Re Militari by Vegetius. The false killer whale is a large odontocete within the family Delphinidae. Despite its common name, it is a species of dolphin and not a true whale. It exhibits complex social behavior, cooperative hunting strategies, and has been observed engaging in interspecies associations with other cetaceans. It displays food-sharing behavior, often within and between pods. The Uffington whitehorse is a geoglyph located in Oxfordshire, England, measuring approximately 110 meters in length. It was created by removing turf to expose underlying chalk, and is believed to date to the Late Bronze Age or Early Iron Age. Continuous maintenance by local communities has preserved its visibility for over 3 millennia. The sugar glider is a small, arboreal, marsupial native to Australia and parts of New Guinea. Despite superficial similarities to rodents, it is classified within the order Diprotodontia. The species possesses a gliding membrane called the patagium, enabling it to traverse distances up to 50 meters between trees. This gliding adaptation evolved independently from those of placental mammals, such as flying squirrels. The quagga, a subspecies of the plain zebra, exhibited distinctive striping, restricted to the anterior half of the body. It was declared extinct in the wild by the late 19th century, with the last known specimen dying in captivity in 1883. The Quagga Project, initiated in the 1980s, uses selective breeding of plain zebras to revive similar phenotypic traits. The Sogdian script was employed by the Sogdian people of Central Asia from the 4th to the 10th centuries CE. Derived from the Aramaic script, it served as a lingua franca along the Silk Road. It later evolved into the Old Uyghur script and influenced the development of Mongolian and Manchu writing systems, playing a foundational role in the transmission of written language across Central Asia. Black coral colonies, particularly those of the genus Leopathes, found off the coast of Hawaii, have been radiocarbon dated to exceed 4,000 years in age. Despite the name, these corals are typically yellow or brown when alive and turn black upon drying, due to the pigmentation of their proteinaceous skeletons. They belong to the order Antipatharia and are among the longest living marine invertebrates. The Chicxulub impact structure, located on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, spans approximately 180 kilometers in diameter. Formed around 66 million years ago by an asteroid estimated at 10 kilometers in diameter, the event is linked to the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction. It caused widespread fires, atmospheric dust injection, and a global reduction in sunlight, resulting in a prolonged impact winter. The Bering Land Bridge, or Beringia, connected present-day Siberia and Alaska during periods of lowered sea level in the Pleistocene epoch. At its maximum extent, it was up to 1,000 kilometers wide. It facilitated biotic interchange and human migration into the Americas, with archaeological evidence suggesting initial crossings occurred no later than 15,000 years ago. The resplendent Quetzal, found in Central America's cloud forests, is recognized for its iridescent plumage and tail feathers that can exceed the length of its body. Venerated in Maya and Aztec cultures, the species is ecologically sensitive and does not survive well in captivity. Its cultural significance is reflected in iconography and ceremonial headdresses. You've made it through 100. If you're still here, you clearly love learning. So why not make it official? Hit that subscribe button and let's keep going. Anishinaabe oral traditions contain sophisticated star lore used to encode geographic knowledge and seasonal migration patterns. Constellations such as the Fisher and the Great Bear serve as mnemonic devices for ecological timing and navigation. These stories demonstrate the integration of astronomical observation with subsistence strategies in indigenous epistemologies. The eruption of Sarachev Peak, a stratovolcano in the Kuril Islands, occurred in June 2009 and was documented in real time by astronauts aboard the International Space Station. The event produced a characteristic umbrella-shaped plume rising into the stratosphere. It provided valuable observational data for volcanic plume dynamics, including atmospheric injection and ash cloud dispersal. The Ainu language, spoken by the indigenous Ainu people of Japan, is classified as a language isolate with no known linguistic relatives. It has undergone significant decline, with only a small number of fluent speakers remaining as of the 21st century. Language revitalization initiatives include formal instruction, digital applications, and incorporation into local education and cultural programming. The sea sapphire, a copepod from the genus Sapphirina, possesses a multi-layered crystal structure in its exoskeleton that reflects polarized light. Depending on the viewing angle, it shifts between vivid iridescence and near invisibility. This optical effect is caused by hexagonal chitin layers spaced to interfere with specific light wavelengths, providing both camouflage and signaling in marine environments. The Kumari tradition in Nepal appoints a prepubescent girl, selected through an extensive vetting process, as the living embodiment of the goddess Taleju. She resides in the Kumari Gar Palace in Kathmandu and is deified until her first menstruation, at which point she is replaced. The practice combines elements of Hindu and Vajrayana Buddhist ritual and is continued in institutional form since the mid-18th century. The BrahMos missile, developed jointly by India's Defense Research and Development Organization and Russia's NPO Mashinostroyenia, is a supersonic cruise missile capable of speeds approaching Mach 3. It was first test-fired in 2001 and is named after the Brahmaputra and Moskva rivers. It is deployable from land, sea, and air platforms, and is currently in active service. Salt domes, formed through the upward movement of halite under pressure, can trap hydrocarbons in impermeable layers. In Louisiana and Texas, several domes, such as those at Avery Island, are used for strategic storage of natural gas and hazardous material. Their geologic stability and sealing properties make them suitable for long-term containment. The Valdivia culture, flourishing along Ecuador's coastal region around 3500 BCE, is among the earliest ceramic-producing societies in the Americas. Archaeological sites such as Real Alto and La Libertad have revealed figurines, often interpreted as female, that emphasize stylized hairstyles and body form. These ceramic artifacts reflect a transition to sedentary village life and provide early evidence of symbolic and artistic expression in pre-Columbian South America. The Valdivia culture, flourishing along Ecuador's coastal region around 3500 BCE, is among the earliest ceramic-producing societies in the Americas. Archaeological sites such as Real Alto and La Libertad have revealed figurines, often interpreted as female, that emphasize stylized hairstyles and body form. These ceramic artifacts reflect a transition to sedentary village life and provide early evidence of symbolic and artistic expression in pre-Columbian South America. The horned screamer, native to South American wetlands, possesses a horn-like projection of keratin on its skull and sharp, bony spurs on its wings. Despite these traits, it is herbivorous, feeding primarily on aquatic vegetation. It is classified within the family Anhimidae and is one of the few extant species with these morphological features. The Saladoid culture, originating in the Orinoco River basin, migrated to the Lesser Antilles around 500 BCE. It is known for the production of finely decorated ceramics, often featuring red and white geometric designs. Archaeological findings at sites such as Cedros and La Hueca suggest early inter-island exchange networks and agricultural development. Yakchals are traditional Persian structures designed to store ice and perishable goods in arid regions, using a combination of thick insulation, subterranean storage chambers, and passive cooling techniques. These domed constructions often incorporated qanats, underground channels that directed water into shaded pools, where it could freeze during cold winter nights. While temperatures inside remained cool enough to preserve ice for months, they were not consistently below freezing. Most surviving yakchals date from the medieval and early modern periods, particularly in regions like Yazd and Kerman. Çatalhöyük, a 9,000-year-old city in Turkey, was built with homes side by side, no streets, and entered by rooftop ladders. Its vibrant wall art, shrines, and shared courtyards reflect a highly social, innovative society. This unique architecture encouraged both privacy and community, making Çatalhöyük a fascinating glimpse into early urban life. The vaquita, endemic to the northern Gulf of California, is the world's most endangered marine mammal. As of 2024, fewer than 10 individuals remain. The primary cause of decline is entanglement in illegal gill nets used for catching totoaba fish, which are trafficked for their swim bladders. Conservation attempts have failed to halt the population's collapse. The ashen light, a dim illumination reportedly seen on the night side of Venus since the 17th century, remains unverified. Observations are anecdotal, and its existence has not been confirmed through spacecraft imaging. Hypotheses include auroral activity or lightning-induced atmospheric glow, but empirical data remain inconclusive. The Ertebøl culture, active in southern Scandinavia from approximately 5200 to 3950 BCE, represents a late Mesolithic society known for its intensive use of coastal resources. Large shell middens found at sites such as Ertebølle and Norse Minde contain remains of oysters, fish, and marine mammals, offering detailed evidence of marine-based subsistence. Unlike earlier Mesolithic groups, the Ertebøl people produced pottery, making them one of the first known pottery-using forager societies in Northern Europe. The transition to agriculture occurred later, with the arrival of the Neolithic funnel beaker culture. Desert kites are large stone structures found across the Middle East and Central Asia, dated to as early as 7000 BCE. Composed of converging stone walls leading to enclosures or drop-offs, they were used for mass hunting of ungulates. Satellite imagery has revealed hundreds of these constructions, indicating organized and possibly seasonal hunting strategies. Caecilians, limbless amphibians of the order Gymnophiona, display a form of parental care known as maternal dermatophagy. Offspring feed on a lipid-rich layer of their mother's skin using specialized dentition. This reproductive strategy has been observed in species such as Boulangerula titana and provides sustenance during early development in subterranean environments. Antarctic krill form one of the largest biomasses on Earth, estimated to exceed 500 million metric tons. They play a central role in the Southern Ocean food web and contribute significantly to carbon sequestration by transporting organic carbon to deep-sea layers through vertical migration and fecal deposition. The Muisca raft is a small votive artifact made of tumbaga, a gold-copper alloy discovered in a cave near the town of Pasca in Colombia, not in Lake Guatavita. Dating to the late Muisca period, circa 13th to 15th centuries CE, it depicts a ritual scene in which a chief stands on a raft surrounded by attendants, likely referencing initiation ceremonies linked to the legend of El Dorado. While its association with Lake Guatavita is symbolic, rather than archaeological, the artifact remains central to the myth's development. It is housed in the Gold Museum in Bogota. The Sumerian King List is an ancient Mesopotamian text preserved in multiple clay tablet copies, blending mythological and historical narratives. It lists rulers and dynasties, including a series of antediluvian kings with implausibly long reigns. The figure most commonly associated with the longest reign is Alulim of Eridu, said to have ruled for 28,800 years. Enmendur-Ana of Sippar, also in the list, is attributed a reign of 21,000 years. The Nazino Affair of 1933 involved the forced relocation of over 6,000 people to Nazino Island in western Siberia without supplies, shelter, or adequate planning. Within weeks, over 4,000 died or disappeared, with verified cases of cannibalism. The event, part of Soviet labor resettlement policies, stands as one of the more catastrophic results of improvised governance. The pen-tailed tree shrew, native to Malaysia, regularly consumes fermented nectar containing up to 3.5% alcohol, roughly beer strength, yet shows no behavioral signs of intoxication. It's possibly the only known mammal to drink nightly and still make it to work on time. Finland's archipelago sea contains over 40,000 islands, the most of any archipelago worldwide. Many are uninhabited, reachable only by seasonal boats or determined kayakers with a good map and lots of time. The area is part of the Baltic Sea and supports rich biodiversity despite challenging navigation. Bowhead whales are among the longest-lived mammals known, with individuals confirmed to live over 2 centuries. Harpoons dating to the 1800s have been found embedded in their blubber, indicating not only their age, but also their unfortunate experience with 19th century whaling technology. At its peak, Kowloon Walled City in Hong Kong housed over 30,000 residents within just 6.5 acres, creating the highest known population density on Earth. With no formal building codes, the city resembled a concrete honeycomb, eventually demolished in 1994 after decades of ad hoc vertical urbanism. The axial seamount, an underwater volcano located on the Juan de Fuca Ridge off the U.S. Pacific Northwest, inflates and deflates as magma moves beneath it, effectively making it the Earth's least entertaining balloon animal. It is one of the most closely monitored submarine volcanic systems due to its activity and accessibility. The Terracotta Army of Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum includes over 8,000 life-size statues, each featuring unique facial characteristics. Archaeologists theorize they may have been modeled after actual soldiers from the 3rd century BCE, making it the largest and possibly the most patient army ever assembled. The Struve Geodetic Arc, stretching over 2,800 kilometers from Norway to the Black Sea, was used in the 19th century to calculate the size and shape of Earth. Comprising 34 preserved points, it was the first accurate multinational scientific measurement of a meridian arc. Essentially, a very long math problem carved into Europe. Ancient Egyptian doors often operated using stone pivot sockets rather than metal hinges. The pivots were set into recessed floor and ceiling blocks, allowing doors to rotate with surprising efficiency, a design that stayed in use for thousands of years, long before the invention of squeaky hinges. The rainbow eucalyptus, native to the Philippines and Indonesia, naturally sheds its bark in long strips, revealing green layers that shift to orange, purple, and maroon as they age. The result is a tree that looks like it was painted by someone indecisive about color palettes. Mammoth Cave in Kentucky is the longest known cave system in the world, with more than 680 kilometers of mapped passageways. It features a wide array of subterranean ecosystems and rivers, and was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1981 for its geological and biological significance. The International Celestial Reference Frame uses over 3,000 quasars, extremely distant, high-energy astronomical objects, as fixed reference points to chart the universe. Unlike Earth-based systems, the ICRF remains stable over time, unaffected by tectonic motion, making it the gold standard for high-precision space mapping. Yoro Falls, located in Gifu Prefecture, Japan, are associated with a well-known legend from the Nara period. According to the tale, the waters once transformed into sake and rejuvenated an elderly man, prompting Emperor Gensho to commemorate the site in connection with filial piety. While the story is part of local folklore and is referenced in classical literature such as the Shoku Nihongi, there is no historical record of a formal imperial decree citing sake as a civic virtue. In the year 1861, Scottish physicist James Clerk Maxwell demonstrated the principle of additive color using a photographic method involving red, green, and blue filters. The subject was a tartan ribbon, and the result, created by projecting 3 separate black and white negatives through corresponding colored filters, was the first successful demonstration of color projection. However, it was not a color photograph in the modern sense, as it did not produce a permanent color image. Although foundational for color theory and imaging, Maxwell's work predated the invention of color photographic plates and does not directly relate to digital RGB pixels, which emerged from later electronic technologies. The San Pedro cactus, long associated with ceremonial use in Andean cultures, contains the hallucinogenic compound mescaline. Archaeological evidence of its ritual use dates back to at least 1500 BCE, particularly in the Kupusnik and Chavin cultures, placing its ceremonial role at over 3,500 years. While often described as native to the Andes, its precise origin remains debated, as it has been widely cultivated throughout western South America. The plant's vertical, ribbed growth is characteristic, but it does not follow a Fibonacci sequence. The devil's corkscrews of Nebraska were once misidentified as tree roots or fossilized sponges. Now confirmed to be ancient burrows of the extinct rodent Paleocastor, they're essentially Paleogene plumbing systems, etched into the earth by a creature with a strong sense of direction and no internet. Damascus, Syria, is widely considered the world's longest continuously inhabited city, with archaeological layers indicating urban settlement for over 11,000 years. From Neolithic trade centers to modern conflict zones, the city has withstood millennia of history without ever missing a census. The protozoan Spirostomum ambiguum is capable of contracting over 60% of its body length in under 5 milliseconds, among the fastest cellular movements recorded. This is achieved through a coiled protein spring called centrin, which stores tension and releases energy with remarkable speed. Essentially, it's a single-celled slingshot with no patience. In 2014, researchers continued advancing studies on combretustatin, a compound derived from the African bush willow. The molecule disrupts tubulin in tumor endothelial cells, leading to the collapse of internal tumor blood vessels. It remains under clinical investigation as a vascular disrupting agent for targeted cancer therapy. Bald eagles typically form lifelong monogamous pairs, returning to the same nesting site each breeding season. Both partners share responsibilities such as nest building, incubating eggs, and feeding young. Although they may seek a new mate if one dies or fails to return, most remain bonded for life. The ant species Myrmecocystus mexicanus stores nectar in the distended abdomens of select workers, forming honeypot ants. These individuals serve as food storage, suspended from the ceilings of desert nests. The behavior functions as a long-term adaptation to arid environments with seasonal food scarcity. Near Kalambo Falls, in Zambia, archaeologists in 2023 discovered a wooden structure dating back approximately 476,000 years. Made with notched interlocking logs, it is the oldest known example of carpentry and predates Homo sapiens, indicating tool use by an unidentified hominin species. The velvet worm, Peripatus, uses adhesive slime to immobilize prey. This slime is expelled from oral glands through rapid muscle contractions and solidifies on contact. The mechanism lacks traditional valves and is rare among invertebrates. The organism is studied for its primitive characteristics and predatory behavior. In 2017, LiDAR surveys in Tabasco, Mexico, first identified the vast ceremonial platform of Aguada Phoenix. Measuring over 1,400 meters long, it dates to around 1000 BCE. The site, studied further in 2019 and publicly announced in 2020, predates known dynastic structures and suggests organized communal construction before centralized Mayan governance. Alticus arnoldorum, the Pacific leaping blenny, is a fish species that spends most of its life out of water. Found in intertidal zones of the Indo-Pacific, it uses tail and pectoral movement to jump across rocks and breathes through moist skin and oral tissues. Its habitat requires continuous access to wet surfaces. The Nebra sky disk, unearthed in Saxony-Anhalt, Germany in 2001, is a bronze artifact dated to approximately 1600 before Common Era. It is the oldest known representation of celestial bodies, depicting the Sun, Moon, and the Pleiades. The disk provides early evidence of astronomical observation in Central Europe. The Mimi virus, identified in 2003, is a large virus infecting amoebae. With a genome exceeding 1 million base pairs, it rivals bacterial genome sizes. It was the first virus discovered to host a parasitic virophage, prompting a re-evaluation of the boundary between viruses and cellular organisms. In 2010, scientists reported an underwater river in the Black Sea using remotely operated vehicles. It flows along the seabed, formed by denser saline water from the Bosphorus Strait. The current features define banks and channels and demonstrates stratified flow phenomena unique to submarine hydrodynamics. Diatoms are unicellular algae with cell walls composed of silica structures called frustules. These intricate forms exhibit nanoscale porosity and optical interference properties. Due to their regular geometry and resilience, they are studied for applications in nanotechnology, biosensing, and photonic materials. The caterpillar Lonomia obliqua, found in Brazil, possesses venom that inhibits coagulation. Contact with its spines causes systemic hemorrhaging. Confirmed fatalities have led to the development of a specific antivenom. Its venom contains procoagulant inhibitors and has been studied for medical and toxicological applications. Centrichia caenanervis is a bryophyte known for its extreme desiccation tolerance, primarily documented in the Gurbentungut Desert of northwestern China. Upon rehydration, it can resume photosynthetic activity within minutes, although full physiological recovery may take longer. While this trait is common among mosses, it remains a subject of active study for potential applications in stress-resilient crop biotechnology. Astatine, with atomic number 85, is a halogen element with extreme rarity and instability. Its isotopes have half-lives ranging from microseconds to a few hours. The estimated total quantity in Earth's crust is less than 1 gram at any time. Its name derives from the Greek word astatos, meaning unstable. Hydnora africana is a parasitic flowering plant native to southern Africa. It grows entirely underground except for its reproductive structure, which emits a strong odor resembling feces to attract dung beetles for pollination. The plant lacks chlorophyll and derives nutrients from host roots. The plant hopper Issus coleoptratus was found in 2013 to use a functional mechanical gear system at the base of its legs. The interlocking gear teeth synchronize hind leg movement during jumping. This mechanism ensures coordinated motion and reduces rotational deviation during escape responses. Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of Queen, was born with 4 extra teeth in his upper jaw, a condition known as supernumerary teeth. He believed this unusual dental structure expanded his oral cavity, potentially enhancing his vocal range. Although he was self-conscious about his prominent smile, he never had the teeth corrected fearing it might affect his singing ability. The Chukchi language of Siberia includes a grammatical feature known as volitionality, which differentiates verb forms based on whether the subject performs an action willingly or unwillingly. This distinction is rare among the world's languages and demonstrates a high degree of morphological specificity in conveying intent. High-resolution X-ray imaging of the Antikythera mechanism revealed that the ancient device not only predicted lunar phases and eclipses, but also the likely color of lunar eclipses. The terms used, dark, pale, or red, correspond to atmospheric conditions, indicating a sophisticated empirical understanding of eclipse visibility. The Basilica Cistern in Istanbul was constructed during the reign of Emperor Justinian in the 6th century. Among its repurposed architectural elements are two upside-down Medusa heads serving as column bases. The origin of the stones is unknown, and their inverted orientation may have held symbolic or structural significance. Neurospora crassa, a species of red bread mold, played a foundational role in molecular genetics during the 1940s. It was used by George Beadle and Edward Tatum to demonstrate that individual genes control specific enzymatic reactions, forming the basis of the one gene, one enzyme hypothesis. The Japanese architectural method known as yakisugi, or shosugiban, involves charring the surface of wood to preserve it. By carbonizing the outer layer, the process enhances resistance to moisture, insects, and decay. Originally practiced in the Edo period, it has re-emerged in sustainable design applications. In 2019, paleontologists studying fossils from Romania's Hatzig Basin described Balaur Bondoc, a dromaeosaurid theropod with an unusual skeletal structure. It possessed two prominent sickle-shaped claws on each foot, a trait not observed in other known dinosaur taxa, suggesting regional evolutionary divergence. Piezophilic microorganisms, or piezophiles, are extremophilic microbes that require high hydrostatic pressures to survive. Found in deep ocean environments, such as the Mariana Trench, these organisms possess membrane proteins and enzymes structurally adapted to pressures exceeding 1,000 atmospheres. The mineral ringwoodite, discovered in diamonds originating from Earth's mantle, contains water molecules within its crystal structure. Analysis indicates that vast quantities of water may be stored in the transition zone between the upper and lower mantle, possibly equaling 3 times the volume of Earth's surface oceans. The Mongolian deathworm is a cryptid of Central Asian folklore, believed to inhabit the Gobi Desert. It is described as subterranean and capable of emitting electric discharges or venom. Despite multiple expeditions, no verifiable evidence of its existence has been documented in the scientific record. The cosmological framework of the Zuni people includes 6 cardinal directions: north, south, east, west, zenith, and nadir. Each direction is associated with a color, a symbolic animal, and a spiritual guardian. This system informs ritual, mythology, and spatial orientation within the Zuni cultural context. The Sator square, a Latin palindrome composed of 5 words, Sator, Aripo, Tenet, Opera, Rotus, is notable for its multi-directional symmetry. Found in archaeological sites from Pompeii to medieval churches, its function remains uncertain, though hypotheses include religious symbolism and mnemonic utility. In the early 13th century, the Persian polymath Nasir al-Din al-Tusi developed a geometric model known as the Tusi couple. This consisted of a small circle rotating inside a larger one, generating linear motion. It was later cited in Copernican models as a component in celestial mechanics. The mountain tapir, Tapirus pinchaque, is the smallest and most endangered member of the tapir family. Native to high-altitude cloud forests of the northern Andes, it plays a crucial ecological role as a seed disperser. Ongoing threats include habitat loss and limited population size, with fewer than 2,000 individuals remaining. The deep-sea amphipod species Hirundellea gigas produces an aluminum hydroxide gel in its gut, derived from ingested sediment. This compound coats its exoskeleton and may serve as protection against extreme hydrostatic pressure, compensating for the lack of calcium in abyssal environments. The Javanese poetic system, known as Tembang Makapat, consists of fixed metrical patterns, each associated with a specific phase of human life, such as birth, education, love, and death. These poetic forms are employed in spiritual ceremonies, oral storytelling, and cultural instruction. Fusarium oxysporum is a soil-dwelling fungal pathogen known primarily for causing vascular wilt in a wide range of plants. While it belongs to the same genus as some mycotoxin-producing species, such as Fusarium graminearum and Fusarium culmorum, Fusarium oxysporum itself is not a primary producer of mycoestrogens like zearalenone. Mycoestrogens are indeed estrogen-mimicking compounds that can contaminate grains and affect endocrine function, but their production is more reliably associated with other Fusarium species. The Hadza people of northern Tanzania represent one of the last surviving hunter-gatherer societies. Genetic analyses reveal exceptionally high mitochondrial diversity, supporting the hypothesis of continuous human habitation in the East African Rift Valley over tens of thousands of years. The meteorite ALH 84001 was discovered in Antarctica in 1984 and has been confirmed as originating from Mars, based on isotopic and geochemical signatures matching the Martian atmosphere. It contains carbonate globules and microscopic structures that, in the 1990s, were interpreted by some researchers as potential fossilized microbial life. Although the biological interpretation remains controversial and unproven, ALH 84001 remains a significant object of study in the field of astrobiology. The bootlace worm, Linnaeus longissimus, is one of the longest known animals, with reported specimens exceeding 55 meters in length. It secretes a neurotoxic mucus to incapacitate prey and possesses significant regenerative capacity, making it a subject of interest in developmental biology. A bronze artifact, known as the Berlin Gold Hat, was found in a burial site in Germany. What's interesting is that its surface is covered in repeating patterned symbols, which researchers believe encode a lunar solar calendar spanning over 19 years. This appears to reflect an early understanding of the Metonic cycle, even though it contains no written numerals or formal inscriptions. In the ancient city of Copan, in present-day Honduras, rulers from a dynastic line of Maya kings integrated astronomy into urban design. Many of the city's monuments and temples are aligned to solar and lunar events. The site also includes a hieroglyphic stairway with over 1,000 carved glyphs, considered the longest known inscription in the entire Maya world. In parts of Korea, carved wooden poles called jangseung were traditionally erected at village borders. These totems often featured expressive guardian faces and inscriptions. Beyond their symbolic role in warding off harmful spirits, they also served administrative purposes by marking clan territories or village limits, a blend of cultural and practical function. The xenophyophore is a type of single-celled organism found in deep-sea environments. Despite being unicellular, some can grow over 20 centimeters in diameter. They build intricate external shells by gathering sediment, and they've been found at depths greater than 10,000 meters, making them one of the most extreme and unusually structured single-celled organisms known. The Cathedral of Seville in Spain was built atop the site of a former mosque, incorporating parts of the original Islamic structure. Its bell tower, La Giralda, was once a minaret and still features a sloped internal ramp wide enough for horseback ascents, an architectural feature designed for the muezzin to ride to the top for the call to prayer. A Tibetan medical text dating back to the 12th century details a system of pulse diagnosis involving 28 distinct pulse types. Practitioners use the fingertips to assess internal organ health and emotional balance by feeling subtle differences in rhythm and tension. This method predates similar diagnostic techniques in European medicine by several centuries. The Ravenala madagascariensis, commonly called the traveler's tree, is native to Madagascar and stores rainwater in the bases of its large leaves. Interestingly, the plant tends to grow with its fan-like leaves aligned roughly east to west, which early travelers sometimes used as a rudimentary compass for orientation. On the islands of Malta, megalithic temples like Hagar Kim and Menasdra were constructed more than 5,000 years ago. These stone complexes are carefully aligned to mark sunrise during solstices. They predate both Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids and offer an early example of architectural planning based on astronomical observation. The alpine weta is a flightless insect native to New Zealand's mountains. It can survive internal freezing at temperatures as low as -9 degrees Celsius by producing ice-binding proteins that control ice growth, enabling thawing without fatal damage. This rare freeze tolerance is key to its winter survival. In the early 20th century, Russian biophysicist Alexander Gurwitch proposed that cells emit faint ultraviolet light, a phenomenon he called mitogenetic radiation. Though controversial at the time, later research using photomultiplier tubes confirmed that living cells emit ultra-weak light, now known as biophotons. These emissions are currently studied in relation to oxidative stress and cellular communication. Some tree frogs in the Philomedusa genus, native to South America, secrete peptides that strongly affect the nervous system. One such compound, dermorphin, interacts with opioid receptors and is significantly more potent than morphine. Certain indigenous groups have used these secretions in traditional rituals, often referred to as kambo, for both physical and spiritual purposes. The moon Iapetus, one of Saturn's outer satellites, has a distinctive equatorial ridge that rises as high as 13 kilometers in some sections. This ridge runs along much of the moon's equator, giving it an unusual walnut-like shape. The origin of the ridge remains uncertain, with hypotheses ranging from ancient ring material to internal geological activity. The volcano rabbit, Romerolagus diazi, is found only on the slopes of extinct volcanoes near Mexico City. It's one of the smallest rabbit species and uses high-pitched whistles as alarm signals rather than foot thumping. Its limited habitat makes it vulnerable to environmental changes and human activity. Archaeologists excavating at Abydos, Egypt, announced in 2021 the discovery of a large-scale brewery dating to approximately 3,000 years ago, 1100 BCE, during the early First Dynasty. The facility includes 8 production units, each containing multiple large ceramic basins used for heating a mixture of water, grain, and other ingredients. Estimates suggest the vats could each hold over 300 gallons. Evidence indicates the beer was likely produced for use in royal or ritual ceremonies associated with nearby temple complexes. This site is considered one of the oldest known industrial-scale breweries in the world. Zemanite is a rare mineral first identified in Austria that contains tellurium and forms distinctive tubular crystals. Its structure is of interest in crystallography due to its unique geometry and composition. However, it's found in only a few localities around the world, making it both scientifically valuable and geologically uncommon. In India's Nameri National Park, a freshwater fish species called Batis displays rapid color changes. Males, in particular, shift hues during social encounters to signal aggression or submission. This level of dynamic color communication is relatively rare among freshwater species. The Diderot effect is a concept in consumer psychology describing how the acquisition of a new item can prompt a series of additional purchases aimed at achieving aesthetic or functional consistency. The term was coined by anthropologist Grant McCracken in the 20th century, inspired by an 18th century essay by Denis Diderot. In the essay, Diderot recounts how receiving a luxurious new robe led him to replace many other possessions that suddenly felt out of place. In the 14th century BCE, Mycenaean warriors used boar tusk helmets composed of multiple polished tusk plates sewn onto leather caps. These helmets were both lightweight and durable, offering protection without metal. Archaeological evidence of such helmets appears in shaft graves at Mycenae and in Linear B records, and they are referenced in Homer's Iliad as status symbols of elite combatants. The Arctic ground squirrel survives hibernation by supercooling its blood plasma to below 0 degrees Celsius without forming ice crystals. During this state, cerebral activity is nearly undetectable, and metabolic functions slow drastically. This mechanism, involving regulated urea accumulation and selective gene expression, has made the species a model organism in suspended animation and neuroprotection research. The ocean sunfish holds the record for vertebrate fecundity, with females capable of producing up to 300 million eggs per spawning cycle. Adult specimens can exceed 1,000 kilograms, yet their larvae hatch at under 2 millimeters. Despite high egg output, juvenile survival rates remain extremely low, contributing to research on life history trade-offs in marine teleosts. During the Hellenistic period, Greek engineers designed automata powered by pneumatic and hydraulic systems. Hero of Alexandria documented devices including steam-driven mechanical birds, automatic temple doors, and coin-operated dispensers in his 1st century CE works such as Pneumatica. These devices represent some of the earliest known programmable mechanical systems in antiquity. The Tokelauan language, part of the Polynesian branch of the Austronesian family, contains distinct pronouns for inclusive and exclusive first-person plural. This grammatical feature differentiates whether the listener is included in we. Such systems influence interpersonal interaction and are found in many Pacific languages, reflecting linguistic strategies for expressing group boundaries. Celadon ceramics of the Goryeo dynasty in Korea, active from the 10th to the 14th century CE, achieved a translucent green glaze by firing iron oxide-rich slip under reducing conditions. Mastery of this method led to uniform microcrystalline structure, with surviving pieces showing high chemical durability and uniformity in glaze depth, representing a technological peak in East Asian kiln ceramics. Japanese swordsmiths in the 16th century developed blades with nanostructured steel through repeated folding, hammering, and quenching. Modern transmission electron microscopy has identified carbon nanotube-like formations within the steel matrix, enhancing both flexibility and tensile strength. These features emerged unintentionally through manual thermomechanical processing and have been studied for metallurgical applications. Philolaus of Croton, a 5th century BCE Pythagorean philosopher, proposed a cosmological model where celestial bodies, including Earth, revolved around a central fire. Though lacking empirical foundation, the model represents one of the earliest documented departures from geocentrism. Surviving fragments of his writings influenced later Hellenistic astronomical speculation and proto-heliocentric theories. Underwater brinicles form in polar seas when supercooled, saline water descends from sea ice, freezing surrounding seawater into tubular ice structures. These brinicles can grow several meters long and entrap benthic organisms upon contact. First observed in situ during the 20th century, they exemplify cryopeg formation and convective brine rejection in marine thermohaline systems. The radula of chiton mollusks, such as Cryptochiton stellari, contains teeth reinforced with magnetite, a hard, naturally magnetic iron oxide. These biomineralized structures enable scraping of algae from rocky substrates. The magnetite layer exhibits hardness exceeding 5 gigapascals, making them among the most wear-resistant biological materials currently known. In Norse mythology, the ship Naglfar is said to be constructed from the untrimmed fingernails of the dead and will carry giants during Ragnarok. As a preventive measure, Norse funeral customs required nail trimming prior to burial. The myth appears in the prose Edda compiled by Snorri Sturluson in the 13th century. Thujon, a monoterpene ketone found in Artemisia absinthium, was historically believed to induce hallucinations in absinthe consumers. Later pharmacological studies revealed it acts as a GABAA receptor antagonist, causing neuroexcitation in high doses. Regulatory limits now cap Thujon concentration in commercial spirits to under 10 milligrams per liter in the European Union. A mural at the Neolithic site of Çatalhöyük in central Turkey, dated to approximately 6000 BCE, is hypothesized to depict the eruption of the Hasan Dağı volcano behind a schematic layout of the settlement. If confirmed, this would represent the oldest known visual record of a volcanic eruption and an early form of environmental documentation. The maned wolf, native to South American grasslands, is the largest canid on the continent, but is not closely related to foxes or wolves. Its elongated limbs facilitate movement through tall vegetation. It uses low-frequency roar barks for long-range communication, and its omnivorous diet includes fruit, insects, and small mammals. In the 17th century, European shipbuilders applied copper sheathing to the hulls of naval and merchant vessels as an anti-fouling measure. The copper inhibited barnacle growth and corrosion, reducing drag and maintenance costs. These early maritime applications inadvertently produced corrosion patterns that later contributed to the study of galvanic reactions and modern material science. NASA selected Jezero Crater as the landing site for the Perseverance rover based on orbital imagery indicating an ancient river delta. Spectral data revealed the presence of phyllosilicates and other clay-rich minerals suggesting prolonged contact with liquid water. The site is used to investigate paleo-environmental conditions and the potential for preserved biosignatures. A supercritical fluid is defined as a phase in which a substance exceeds its critical temperature and pressure, exhibiting properties of both liquids and gases. Supercritical carbon dioxide is commonly used in industrial processes, such as caffeine extraction and environmentally benign solvent systems, due to its tunable solvating power and low toxicity. The Subak irrigation system, developed in Bali rather than Java, is a centuries-old water management network coordinated through temple-based institutions. Dating back to at least the 11th century CE, Subak links rice farming with a cooperative, decentralized structure overseen by priestly councils. These councils align agricultural cycles with a lunar calendar and religious rituals, sustaining ecological balance and rice productivity across entire watersheds. Eridu, located in present-day Dhikar Governorate, Iraq, is considered one of the earliest urban centers in Mesopotamian history. Founded circa 5400 BCE, it was dedicated to the god Enki and contains architectural remains of some of the first known ziggurats. Excavations were led by Fuad Safar and Seton Lloyd in the mid-20th century. Bismuth telluride exhibits topological insulating behavior at cryogenic temperatures, where surface states remain conductive while the bulk remains non-conductive. This quantum state is protected by time reversal symmetry and is under investigation for use in thermoelectric generation and fault-tolerant quantum computing. The Devonian period, dating from approximately 419 to 359 million years ago, marked a major diversification of jawed and lobe-finned fishes. It also witnessed the evolution of vascular land plants and the development of the first terrestrial forests, contributing to large-scale atmospheric and ecological shifts. The John Froome movement, a syncretic belief system classified as a cargo cult, originated on the island of Tanna in the Republic of Vanuatu during the early to mid-20th century. It centers around a semi-mythical American figure associated with the arrival of military cargo during World War II. The movement continues to hold ceremonial events. Pyroelectricity, the generation of electric charge in response to temperature changes, occurs in minerals such as tourmaline and quartz. This phenomenon was first described systematically by Carl Linnaeus and Franz Aepinus in the 18th century, though evidence suggests it was observed as early as the Classical Greek period. Jomon pottery, named after the cord-marked impressions used in its decoration, dates back to approximately 14,000 BCE in Japan. It is among the oldest known examples of ceramic technology globally. The artifacts suggest a sedentary hunter-gatherer culture capable of producing storage vessels and ritual items during the early Holocene. Kyoto's Kamigamo Shrine has used traditional turf roofs since 794 CE, maintained by hereditary guilds. Their living grass insulation, installed through time-honored techniques, provides natural temperature regulation without modern materials. This sustainable method preserves historic craftsmanship and the shrine's timeless connection to Japan's cultural and architectural heritage. The Rongorongo script of Easter Island remains undeciphered. Despite the survival of 24 wooden tablets bearing glyphic inscriptions, no bilingual text or cipher has been found. Colonial disruption and missionary destruction of records in the 19th century eliminated local transmission of reading knowledge before modern analysis could begin. Torpedo rays, members of the Torpedinidae family, were documented in Greco-Roman medical texts as therapeutic instruments. Practitioners, including Scribonius Largus, applied live electric rays to treat pain conditions such as gout and neuralgia, exploiting the ray's ability to generate bioelectric discharges through electrocyte organs. The Akashic records are a metaphysical construct within theosophical and esoteric traditions. First referenced by Helena Blavatsky in the late 19th century, they are described as a non-physical repository of all consciousness-related phenomena. Despite widespread influence in New Age and occult thought, the concept remains unverified by empirical science. The Lombard effect describes how humans and animals involuntarily raise their vocal volume in noisy environments. First studied in the early 20th century, it's now used in speech therapy and understanding neural control of vocalization. The Vasa, a 17th century Swedish warship, sank on its maiden voyage in 1628 due to poor design and imbalance. Salvaged in 1961, it's one of the best preserved wooden ships ever recovered and remains largely intact. Stromatolites are layered biostructures formed by cyanobacteria. Fossils dating back 3.5 billion years suggest these organisms were among the first to produce oxygen via photosynthesis, contributing to Earth's atmospheric evolution. Baculites were straight-shelled cephalopods that lived during the late Cretaceous period. Their internal chambered structures, preserved in fossil form, are detailed enough to allow studies of ancient seawater composition and magnetic polarity. These fossils offer one of the few ways to reconstruct paleoceanographic and geomagnetic data using biogenic material. The pied tamarin, Saguinus bicolor, is native to the forested areas surrounding Manaus, Brazil. It's currently listed as critically endangered, largely due to urban expansion and competition with the more adaptable red-handed tamarin. Its remaining populations are restricted to fragmented secondary growth habitats, which poses additional challenges for conservation. A meteorite discovered near Fukang, China, in the early 2000s contains olivine crystals embedded in a nickel-iron matrix. This specimen belongs to a rare class of stony iron meteorites called pallasites. The internal crystalline structure, visible when thinly sliced and backlit, has made it an object of scientific and aesthetic interest. Inside the cochlea of the human inner ear, mechanical vibrations are converted into electrical signals through a process that resembles a real-time Fourier transform. Different parts of the cochlear spiral are tuned to different frequencies, allowing complex sounds to be decomposed into their component tones before being transmitted via the auditory nerve. The Javan rhinoceros, Rhinoceros sondicus, has a surviving population confined to Ujung Kulon National Park in Indonesia. Fewer than 80 individuals remain, and the species is considered the rarest large land mammal. It is elusive and tends to avoid open terrain, making observation and documentation especially difficult. Liquid mirror telescopes use reflective metals like mercury to form a parabolic surface by spinning the liquid at a constant rate. Because they are limited to vertical observation, these telescopes are primarily used in survey work. Their low manufacturing cost and optical precision offer distinct advantages for certain observational tasks. Cuneiform tablets from ancient Sumer, dating as early as 2000 BCE, include descriptions of symptoms, diagnoses, and treatment procedures. These early medical texts documented over 200 ailments, including instructions based on behavioral observation and ritual divination, showing an early attempt to formalize medical knowledge. The fossil Tullimonstrum gregarium, commonly called the Tully monster, was discovered in Mason Creek deposits in Illinois. Despite extensive study, its classification remains uncertain due to its unusual morphology. A soft, elongated body, stalked eyes, and a terminal proboscis. It is often cited as an example of extinct anatomical novelty. The wild yak, Bos mutus, native to the Tibetan Plateau, has hemoglobin with a higher affinity for oxygen than that of lowland cattle. This adaptation allows efficient oxygen transport in environments above 5,000 meters and has drawn attention from biomedical researchers studying hypoxia resistance. The giant African millipede, Archaeostreptus gigas, can grow over 30 centimeters long and possesses hundreds of legs. When threatened, it secretes a chemical defense that includes hydrogen cyanide. Despite this, it is often kept in captivity due to its non-aggressive behavior and ecological role in decomposing plant material. Linear B tablets from Mycenaean Greece, dated to the Late Bronze Age, indicate early examples of regional branding. Products like perfumed oils were marked with ideograms specifying their place of origin, reflecting a form of controlled distribution and perhaps economic identity tied to palatial centers. An artificial eyeball discovered in a burial site at Shar-e-Sukte in Iran has been dated to approximately 4,800 years ago. It was constructed from a paste of bitumen and animal fat and featured fine gold threads simulating capillaries, possibly indicating both functional and ceremonial use. The so-called London hammer, found encased in mineralized rock near London, Texas, has sparked debate since its discovery. While the hammer is of modern design, geologists explain that mineral concretion around it formed naturally over time, likely due to water percolation in limestone-rich environments. Tardigrades possess a protein known as DZUP, or damage suppressor, which binds to DNA and protects it from ionizing radiation. Laboratory experiments have successfully inserted this protein into human cells, increasing their resistance to DNA damage, a finding that continues to inform genetic and space biology studies. The Ishango bone, excavated from the Democratic Republic of Congo and dated to over 20,000 years ago, features incised notches along its surface. Some interpretations suggest that these markings may represent arithmetic sequences or early counting systems, potentially involving prime numbers. In Kawa-Ijen volcano in East Java, sulfur gases combust when exposed to oxygen, producing vivid blue flames at night. The phenomenon results from high-temperature oxidation of sulfur, and the liquid sulfur runoff appears to glow due to reflected light, a visually unusual but naturally occurring process. The salmon cannon is a pneumatic device designed to assist salmon in bypassing man-made barriers like dams. It uses a flexible tube and pressure differential to move fish safely over obstacles, minimizing physical stress during migration. This method is currently used in river restoration and conservation projects. In Botswana's Sotelo Hills, more than 4,000 ancient rock paintings have been documented across sandstone cliffs. These artworks are attributed to the San people and reflect spiritual and ritual use of the area. Archaeological evidence indicates continuous human activity at the site for over 20,000 years. The Silkenge spider, first documented in the Amazon rainforest, constructs web structures composed of a central vertical silk spire encircled by regularly spaced silk posts, forming a circular perimeter. The central spire contains a single egg. As of current knowledge, both the species responsible and the function of this web design remain unidentified due to limited direct observation and incomplete taxonomic classification. The Voyager Golden Record, launched aboard Voyager 1 in 1977, includes a pulsar map designed by Frank Drake and Carl Sagan. The diagram depicts the position of 14 pulsars relative to the Sun, with each labeled by its frequency in binary. This configuration provides a spatio-temporal reference frame to locate Earth's solar system based on known pulsar decay rates. The Tam Lod cave complex in Mae Hong Son Province, Thailand, contains prehistoric teak wood coffins positioned on high vertical ledges within the limestone chamber system. Radiocarbon dating estimates the coffins to be over 2,000 years old. The elevation and inaccessible placement of the coffins have led to ongoing archaeological debate regarding transport and installation methods. The 12th century account of the Green Children of Woolpit, recorded by chroniclers William of Newburgh and Ralph of Coggeshall, describes two children of unknown origin with green-tinged skin and a non-English language. The event, occurring in Suffolk, England, is often analyzed in folkloristics as an intersection of medieval oral tradition and undocumented population movements. Lycopodium spores, composed primarily of sporopollenin, exhibit high flammability due to their hydrophobic surface and fine particulate size. In historical contexts, they were used in early pyrotechnic displays to create controlled fireballs. Their use persists in theatrical effects, where combustion, in aerosolized form, produces rapid flame propagation with minimal smoke. The isopod, Cimothoa exigua, conducts a unique parasitic life cycle, entering a fish's mouth, displacing its tongue, and attaching as a functional replacement. This remarkable adaptation, the only known case of a parasite substituting a vertebrate's organ, showcases the ingenuity of marine symbiosis and the intricate relationships shaped by evolution. The shepherd's dial, used in medieval Europe, functioned as a portable timekeeping instrument. Its cylindrical body, with hour markings calibrated to solar declination, featured a string gnomon aligned to cast a shadow. It allowed for temporal measurement during daylight hours at various latitudes, predating mechanical watches. The Inca Empire's administration relied on quipus, knotted string devices encoding numerical data in a base 10 system. Calculations were likely performed on upana counting boards using pebbles or seeds. These tools enabled efficient census, taxation, and resource management across a vast, multilingual empire, as attested by both colonial records and modern research. Teratomas are germ cell tumors capable of differentiating into multiple tissue types, including teeth, hair, and ocular structures. These neoplasms result from pluripotent cell line misregulation and are found in both gonadal and extragonadal locations. Their complex differentiation patterns offer valuable models for embryological research and developmental biology. Hydropotes inermis, commonly known as the Chinese water deer, lacks antlers but exhibits pronounced maxillary canines that form downward extending tusks. These structures are sexually dimorphic and used in intraspecific competition. The species is indigenous to China and the Korean Peninsula and occupies riparian habitats. The domestication syndrome hypothesis, proposed by Dmitry Belyaev, and expanded in later developmental studies, attributes morphological and behavioral traits shared among domesticated mammals to changes in neural crest cell development. Observed features include depigmentation, reduced aggression, craniofacial shortening, and altered ear morphology. Giant viruses such as Pandora virus and mollyvirus were first isolated in the early 21st century from permafrost and aquatic environments. They possess double-stranded DNA genomes exceeding 2 million base pairs and structural dimensions up to 1 micrometer, challenging the traditional size and complexity criteria separating viruses from cellular organisms. The Mapimi Silent Zone, located in the Bolson de Mapimi in northern Mexico, is a region associated with anecdotal accounts of radio silence and magnetic anomalies. While no reproducible electromagnetic irregularities have been verified, the area supports a distinctive desert biome with numerous endemic species due to its ecological isolation. Lichtenberg figures are dendritic patterns resulting from dielectric breakdown in insulating materials subjected to high voltage discharge. In biological tissues, they may appear on human skin following lightning strikes, forming transient fractal burns that correspond to vascular networks affected by current flow. Monocentris japonica, commonly referred to as the pinecone fish, harbors bioluminescent symbiotic bacteria within suborbital photophores. These bacteria emit light through luciferase-catalyzed reactions and facilitate nocturnal navigation and communication. Colonization occurs environmentally rather than vertically through inheritance. The archaeological site of Chan Chan, located in Peru's Moche Valley, was the capital of the Chimu civilization from approximately 900 to 1470 CE. Its adobe architecture features intricate bas-relief friezes depicting marine and avian motifs. Hydraulic infrastructure and segmented palace compounds indicate a highly stratified socio-political system. Ultra-conserved elements are genomic sequences of at least 200 base pairs that remain perfectly conserved across divergent vertebrate lineages, including humans, mice, and chickens. Initially described in 2004 by Bejarano et al., their function is still under investigation, though evidence suggests roles in transcriptional regulation and developmental gene networks. The mangrove killifish, found in mangrove swamps from Florida to Brazil, is capable of surviving terrestrial conditions for periods exceeding several weeks. It accomplishes cutaneous respiration and is one of the few known vertebrates that can reproduce via self-fertilization, possessing both functional ovarian and testicular tissues within a single individual. Ginkgo biloba, a gymnosperm species, is the only surviving member of the order Ginkgoales, which first appeared in the Permian period. Morphologically unchanged for over 200 million years, the species demonstrated extreme resilience during the 20th century, with 6 trees surviving the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and regenerating from scorched stumps. Ötzi, the 5,300-year-old Iceman found in the Alps, bears 61 tattoos made with soot. Their placement coincides with areas of chronic pain, leading researchers to suggest a therapeutic, possibly analgesic, purpose. This remarkable connection highlights the sophistication of ancient European medicine and the enduring quest to relieve suffering through innovation. The White Sands region in New Mexico consists primarily of gypsum dunes. Unlike quartz-based sands, gypsum has high reflectivity and low thermal conductivity, resulting in surface temperatures that remain comparatively low even under direct solar exposure, producing an atypical desert thermal profile. The ram's horn squid is a remarkable deep-sea cephalopod with an internal, spiraled, gas-filled shell that allows precise buoyancy control. It typically swims vertically, shells up, and emits bioluminescent light from a specialized organ at its rear. These adaptations highlight the ingenuity of life in the ocean's mysterious depths. Trinitite is an amorphous glass formed on July 16, 1945, during the detonation of the first atomic device at the Trinity site, New Mexico. The blast fused desert sand into a glassy matrix composed of silica, feldspar, and trace radionuclides, marking the onset of anthropogenic geological alteration. The timbal organ of cicadas produces acoustic signals through high-speed deformation of chitinous ribs located in the abdomen. Some species, such as Magicicada cassini, can emit sounds exceeding 120 decibels. This mechanism is used for mating calls and varies across genera in frequency and amplitude. The Saqqara bird, discovered in an Egyptian tomb dated to approximately 200 BCE, is a wooden artifact resembling a stylized avian glider with fixed wings and a vertical tail. While aerodynamic interpretations have been proposed, there is no conclusive evidence of its use beyond possible symbolic or ceremonial functions. The Azorella compacta, commonly known as Yarida, is a flowering plant in the family Apiaceae endemic to the high Andes. It grows at elevations above 3,200 meters and exhibits an extremely slow growth rate of approximately 1.5 centimeters per year. Individual colonies are estimated to be over 3,000 years old. The basking shark, the second largest extant fish species, is a planktivorous filter feeder that utilizes gill rakers to process more than 500 tons of seawater per hour. Breaching behavior has been documented, with individuals leaping completely out of the water despite their large body mass. Hypervelocity stars, first identified in 2005, are stellar bodies ejected from the galactic center at velocities exceeding 1 million kilometers per hour due to gravitational interactions with the supermassive black hole Sagittarius A star. Some have achieved escape velocity sufficient to leave the gravitational influence of the Milky Way. The Haenyeo of Jeju Island, South Korea, are female freedivers who harvest marine resources without the use of scuba apparatus. Operating at depths of up to 20 meters, many practitioners continue into their 70s and 80s. In 2016, their cultural practice was inscribed by UNESCO as intangible heritage. The Tamanshud case involves an unidentified male corpse discovered on Somerton Beach near Adelaide, Australia, in December 1948. A scrap of paper inscribed with the phrase Tamam Shud from a 12th century Persian poem was found in his clothing. The case remains unsolved despite multiple forensic investigations. Trichinophila clavata, commonly known as the Joro spider, is a large orb-weaving arachnid native to East Asia. Since its detection in Georgia in 2014, it has spread throughout the southeastern United States. The species employs ballooning behavior for aerial dispersal and is considered non-aggressive to humans. The Arctic tern completes the longest known annual migratory route among animal species, traveling between Arctic breeding grounds and Antarctic feeding zones. Each round-trip migration covers an estimated 70,000 kilometers, exposing the species to extended periods of daylight in both hemispheres. St. Elmo's fire is a corona discharge phenomenon resulting from atmospheric ionization during thunderstorms. It typically manifests as a bluish or violet glow around sharp, grounded objects such as ship masts or aircraft wingtips, occurring when the electric field strength exceeds approximately 100 kilovolts per meter. Monte Testaccio in Rome is an artificial mound composed almost entirely of discarded amphorae used for transporting olive oil during the Roman Empire. The site contains fragments from an estimated 53 million vessels and provides detailed archaeological data on Roman trade, packaging, logistics, and consumption patterns. The yin-yang fish is a naturally occurring two-toned mutation in carp, characterized by a distinct division of pigmentation running vertically through the body. This type of genetic chimerism results from two embryos merging early in development. The contrasting black and white pattern closely resembles the traditional Taoist yin-yang symbol, and it occurs without selective breeding or artificial alteration. The jewel wasp, scientifically known as Ampulex compressa, uses a specialized method of parasitism. It injects venom directly into a cockroach's central nervous system, targeting specific brain regions that suppress escape reflexes. After disabling the host's defense responses, the wasp leads it into a burrow and lays an egg on it. The developing larva feeds on the still-living cockroach in a regulated sequence to preserve its viability. The Naga fireballs are luminous spheres reportedly seen rising from the Mekong River, particularly near the border between Thailand and Laos. Observations tend to cluster around the end of Buddhist Lent. While some scientists have proposed natural explanations involving methane combustion or light refraction, no definitive mechanism has been confirmed. The phenomenon is still culturally significant and draws local festivals each year. The fruit fly, Drosophila melanogaster, remains a foundational model organism in biological research. With a life cycle of approximately 10 days and a fully sequenced genome, it has contributed to key discoveries in genetics, including chromosomal inheritance and gene regulation. Its ease of breeding and visible phenotypic mutations continue to make it useful in studies ranging from developmental biology to behavior. The Jamaican iguana was presumed extinct by the mid-20th century, but was rediscovered in 1990 in the Hellshire Hills region. It remains critically endangered, with fewer than 200 individuals in the wild. Conservation efforts now focus on predator control, especially invasive mongooses, and monitoring nesting sites to improve hatchling survival. The Amazonian manatee is the only manatee species adapted exclusively to freshwater ecosystems. Found in the Amazon basin, it moves with seasonal flood pulses and relies on aquatic vegetation. Despite murky water conditions, mother and calf pairs maintain contact through vocalizations, and their behavior remains difficult to observe directly in the wild. NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission to asteroid Bennu revealed that its surface consists of loosely bound regolith. During the sampling maneuver in 2020, the spacecraft encountered unexpectedly low surface cohesion, nearly sinking into the asteroid. This suggests Bennu is a rubble pile structure held together primarily by gravity rather than solid rock. The Nubian sandstone aquifer system extends beneath several North African countries, including Egypt, Libya, Chad, and Sudan. It stores fossil groundwater that is believed to be tens of thousands of years old, dating to periods when the region had a much wetter climate. The aquifer is considered a strategic freshwater reserve in a hyper-arid zone. The Yunnan Lake newt was declared extinct in 2004. Once endemic to a single region in Yunnan Province, China, It suffered habitat degradation and water pollution. Most of what is known about the species comes from limited specimens collected in the early 20th century. Zooniverse is a crowdsourced research platform launched in 2007 that enables public participation in scientific analysis. Volunteers have classified galaxies, digitized handwritten records, and identified wildlife in camera trap footage. The platform has contributed to peer-reviewed publications and has helped discover rare astronomical phenomena such as gravitational lenses and exoplanets. The Blaschka glass models, created by Leopold and Rudolf Blaschka in the 19th century, depict marine invertebrates with scientific precision using clear and colored glass. These models were used in natural history museums and universities before underwater photography existed and continue to serve educational and artistic purposes due to their anatomical accuracy. Arizona's Petrified Forest National Park includes the Jasper Forest, where fossilized conifer logs from the late Triassic period have been preserved through mineral replacement. Silica from volcanic ash permeated the wood tissue over millions of years, eventually forming quartz that retained the original textures of bark and growth rings. The term chronic villager syndrome has been used to describe public health consequences in Nauru after phosphate mining brought sudden economic change. As traditional food systems declined, imported processed foods became dominant. Today, Nauru has some of the highest recorded rates of obesity, diabetes, and kidney disease in the world. The baculovirus infects caterpillars such as those of the gypsy moth, altering their behavior through gene expression. Infected insects climb to elevated positions before dying, after which their bodies rupture and release viral particles that descend onto vegetation below. This strategy enhances viral spread through physical positioning of the host. The Leaning Tower of Pisa underwent stabilization beginning in the late 1990s. Engineers reduced its tilt by approximately 45 centimeters using soil extraction and anchoring techniques. The goal was to prevent further collapse while maintaining the visual tilt. The structure now leans at an angle of roughly 4 degrees. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent at Teotihuacan features elaborate iconography, including over 200 stone serpent heads embedded in the pyramid facade. Archaeological excavations have uncovered mass burials aligned with construction phases, indicating that large-scale ritual sacrifices were integral to its development during the 3rd century CE. The Cubozoan species Tripidalia cystophora possesses 24 eyes arranged in 4 sensory structures called rhopalia. These include complex lens-based eyes, analogous to vertebrate camera-type eyes. Despite lacking a centralized nervous system, the organism exhibits spatial navigation and obstacle avoidance behaviors, particularly within mangrove root habitats where it is commonly found. The Dharmachakra has ancient Vedic roots as a symbol of cosmic and royal authority. Later prominent in Hinduism and Buddhism, it came to represent moral law, cyclical time, and righteous governance, embodying spiritual and societal ideals across centuries, from early rituals to enduring religious and political iconography. The Hanging Temple, or Xuankong Temple, located at Mount Heng in Shanxi Province, China, was constructed approximately 15 centuries ago. Positioned 75 meters above ground level, the structure integrates elements from Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. Wooden beams anchored into horizontal holes in the cliff face support the suspended architecture. Mycoplasma genitalium is a bacterium with a genome comprising approximately 520 genes, making it one of the smallest genomes among autonomously replicating organisms. It was utilized in Craig Venter's synthetic minimal cell project, aiming to determine the minimal genetic components required for cellular viability. Agnotology is a research field coined by historian Robert N. Proctor that examines the cultural and political production of ignorance. It includes the systematic obfuscation or suppression of scientific information, such as industry-led misinformation on tobacco, climate change, and pharmaceuticals through selective publication and disinformation strategies. The genus Esoetes, commonly known as quillworts, consists of aquatic lycophytes that reproduce via heterospory, producing both microspores and megaspores. Fossil evidence from Carboniferous strata indicates their evolutionary lineage contributed to dominant wetland flora in Paleozoic ecosystems, alongside arborescent ferns and calamites. The freshwater fish Colosoma macropomum, commonly referred to as pacu, possesses malariform teeth adapted for crushing nuts and seeds. Though primarily herbivorous, it has occasionally bitten humans, leading to mischaracterizations. The square-shaped teeth resemble human dentition and contribute to niche differentiation within Amazonian river systems. The flightless bird Rhea americana demonstrates male-based parental investment. Males construct nests, incubate eggs laid by multiple females, and provide all chick-rearing activities. Anti-predator strategies include the construction of decoy nests, a rare behavioral adaptation among large terrestrial birds. The Neolithic site of Scarabray in Orkney, Scotland, dates to approximately 3100 BCE. Excavated structures feature integrated stone furnishings, subterranean passageways, and a drainage system. The site offers significant insights into early domestic architecture in prehistoric northern Europe. Coccolithophories are unicellular haptophyte algae that secrete calcareous plates known as coccoliths. These organisms contribute to global carbon cycling and reflectivity of the ocean surface. Satellite imagery often detects large-scale blooms, which influence biogeochemical processes in marine environments. Physalia physalis, commonly known as the Portuguese man-o'-war, is a colonial siphonophore composed of physiologically integrated zooids. The gas-filled pneumatophore enables surface flotation, while the tentacles, which can exceed 30 meters in length, deliver venomous nematocysts used for prey capture and defense. The Carrymore anomaly in the Mariana Trench exhibits unusual sonar reflections, as observed by submersibles. While its origin remains unknown, possible explanations include methane hydrate deposits or distinctive sediment layers that affect sound transmission. This enigmatic feature highlights the ocean's ongoing capacity to surprise and inspire scientific curiosity about the deep seafloor's complex geology. The mega tsunami in Lituya Bay, Alaska, on the 9th of July, 1958, was initiated by a seismic-induced landslide. The resultant wave reached a run-up height of 524 meters, the highest ever recorded. The event caused 3 fatalities and drastically altered local geomorphology. Obsidian hydration dating is an archaeometric technique that estimates artifact age by measuring the thickness of the hydration rim formed as water diffuses into volcanic glass surfaces. It is particularly applicable to lithic tools in regions with limited organic material for radiocarbon dating. The Rasputin effect describes how a person's influence can grow after death through myth-making. Named for Grigory Rasputin, whose historical significance was exaggerated over time despite contemporary challenges, it illustrates the interplay between memory, storytelling, and the cultural transformation of legacy. Tenrex, Madagascar's diverse small mammals, may enter daily torpor or even true hibernation, rare for tropical species. Some species also use high-frequency tongue clicks for echolocation, aiding navigation in low light. These unusual adaptations highlight evolutionary creativity in Madagascar's unique ecosystems. The desert-adapted Rheum palaestinum, also known as desert rhubarb, has corrugated funnel-shaped leaves that direct rainwater efficiently to the root zone. This adaptation enhances water capture in arid climates and reduces surface evaporation, contributing to its survival in low precipitation environments. Bocchilla trifoliolata is a South American vine known for its remarkable foliar mimicry. It can alter leaf morphology, including shape, size, and pigmentation, to resemble host plants. Studies suggest light-mediated or volatile chemical cues may guide this phenotypic plasticity, though the underlying mechanism remains unresolved. The Megascalides australis, or giant Gippsland earthworm, is an endemic Australian species capable of reaching lengths exceeding 3 meters. It produces audible gurgling sounds as it moves through saturated subsoil. Despite its size, it remains elusive due to its subterranean lifestyle. The Mary Man is a geoglyph located near Mary, South Australia, measuring over 4 kilometers in length. First reported in 1998, its precise creation method and authorship remain unidentified. Aerial surveys and satellite imagery confirm its scale and preservation in remote arid terrain. The jellyfish galaxy refers to a morphological classification of galaxies undergoing ram pressure stripping within a galaxy cluster. As the galaxy traverses the intracluster medium, interstellar gas is removed and trails behind the core in filamentous structures. These gaseous tails often exhibit active star formation, forming extended emission regions resembling jellyfish appendages, and serve as key indicators of environmental effects in dense galactic environments. The Black Sea Deluge hypothesis proposes a rapid Mediterranean flood via the Bosporus about 7,600 years ago. While early evidence suggested dramatic salinization and shoreline change, recent research indicates a more gradual rise, with modest impact. Submerged settlements show environmental shifts, but debate persists over whether this inspired grand regional flood legends. The Langkawi Sky Bridge is a curved pedestrian cable-stayed bridge located atop Gunung Mat Cincang in Malaysia. Suspended from a single inclined pylon and situated at an elevation of approximately 700 meters above sea level, the bridge spans 125 meters. Its engineering utilizes a triangular layout for torsional stability and is considered a benchmark in high-altitude, single-pylon footbridge construction. The 1991 eruption of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines released approximately 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere. This resulted in the formation of a global sulfate aerosol layer, causing a measurable reduction in average global temperature of approximately 0.5 degrees Celsius over the following year. The event is among the most significant volcanic-induced climate disruptions of the 20th century. The Hypatia stone, discovered in western Egypt in 1996, contains micromineral inclusions with isotopic and structural compositions not found in terrestrial or known meteoritic materials. Researchers propose that the stone may contain presolar grains or represent a fragment of interstellar material formed outside the solar nebula. Ongoing analyses focus on its carbon-dominated matrix and high concentrations of exotic compounds. The sea pen, belonging to the order Penatulacea within the phylum Cnidaria, is a colonial marine invertebrate anchored to soft sediment substrates. It comprises multiple zooids with specialized functions, including polyps for feeding and reproduction. Bioluminescent responses and water flow sensitivity have made this group a model for studying colonial integration and benthic biodiversity. The Olinguido was formally identified as a distinct species in 2013 by Christopher Helgen and colleagues at the Smithsonian Institution. Native to the Andean cloud forests of Colombia and Ecuador, it is the smallest member of the Procyon family. The species was previously misclassified due to morphological similarity with the Olingo, highlighting challenges in neotropical mammalian taxonomy. The Hessdalen lights in Norway are unexplained atmospheric phenomena involving floating orbs and flashes. Observed for decades, they remain unaccounted for, with hypotheses ranging from combustion of airborne elements to piezoelectric effects from tectonic stress. The Yarkovsky effect is a force acting on rotating asteroids caused by uneven thermal radiation. Over long periods, it can significantly alter an asteroid's orbit, a key factor in planetary defense calculations and space mission planning. The Cueva de los Cristales in Mexico contains gypsum crystals up to 12 meters long, among the largest natural crystals ever found. Formed in hydrothermal cavities beneath the Nika mine, they require constant climate control to prevent decay. The Dendera light hypothesis originates from a relief found in the Hathor Temple at Dendera, Egypt. The image depicts a serpent emerging from a lotus flower held within an oval structure. While mainstream Egyptology interprets the carving as a symbolic representation of creation mythology, speculative theories suggest it may represent electrical apparatus. No archaeological or textual evidence supports the technological interpretation. Sea spiders, or pycnogonids, are marine arthropods classified in the class Pycnogonida. Their internal anatomy is highly reduced, with some physiological systems, such as gonads and portions of the digestive tract, extending into the legs. Certain species lack a dedicated respiratory system and rely on passive diffusion through a permeable cuticle for gas exchange, reflecting extreme morphological adaptation to benthic environments. The giant African pouched rat has been trained for scent detection tasks, including identifying buried landmines and diagnosing tuberculosis through sputum analysis. Its olfactory capabilities, combined with a body mass insufficient to trigger explosive devices, have enabled successful deployment by organizations such as APOPO in mine-clearing operations across Angola, Mozambique, and Cambodia. The ancient Egyptian civil calendar consisted of 360 days divided into 12 30-day months, followed by an additional 5 epagomenal days. Due to the absence of leap year correction, the calendar drifted approximately 1 day every 4 years relative to the solar year. This drift eventually desynchronized agricultural and religious festivals from seasonal markers, necessitating periodic reform in ritual observances. Initial hypotheses on tardigrade cryptobiosis emphasized trehalose-mediated vitrification as the key preservation mechanism. However, subsequent genomic and proteomic analyses revealed that certain species, such as Rhamazodius variornatus, do not utilize trehalose. Instead, They synthesize intrinsically disordered proteins that vitrify cellular components, forming an amorphous solid that protects biological structures under extreme desiccation and ionizing radiation. The Baigong Pipes, located near Mount Baigong in Qinghai Province, China, are iron-rich cylindrical formations embedded in sandstone. While occasionally cited in pseudo-archaeological claims of ancient technological artifacts, geochemical and mineralogical analyses indicate their formation resulted from natural ferric precipitation and diagenesis processes, possibly facilitated by groundwater movement and bacterial mediation in sedimentary environments. In traditional Chinese medicine, yin deficiency denotes a pathophysiological pattern associated with symptoms such as heat sensations, dryness, insomnia, and tachycardia. Though framed within a non-empirical cosmological framework, several symptom clusters under yin shu overlap with modern diagnoses involving sympathetic nervous system activation, thermoregulatory disorders, or endocrine imbalances. The Troxler effect, described by Ignaz Paul Vital Troxler in 1804, is a neurovisual phenomenon in which stationary peripheral stimuli fade from conscious perception during sustained fixation on a central focal point. The effect is attributed to lateral inhibition and adaptive filtering within the visual cortex, illustrating limitations in continuous sensory processing and attentional prioritization. Bach globules are dense molecular clouds composed primarily of hydrogen gas and dust, typically 1 to 10 solar masses in size. Identified by Bart Bach in the 1940s, they appear as opaque regions within emission nebulae. These structures are frequent sites of low-mass star formation and are studied via infrared and millimeter wavelength observations for insights into stellar birth environments. The Mexican mole lizard is a burrowing reptile classified within the Amphisbaenia clade. It possesses 2 well-developed forelimbs used for excavation and a highly elongated body adapted for fossorial locomotion. Its segmented appearance and reduced eyes reflect evolutionary convergence with caecilians and other subterranean vertebrates. Native to the Baja California Peninsula, it remains a subject of comparative anatomy and phylogenetic studies. The pencil urchin represents one of the most primitive extant members of the class Echinoidea. Its robust, blunt spines and anatomical features are considered phylogenetically basal, offering insight into early echinoderm morphology. Fossil evidence and molecular data place this lineage near the base of modern urchin diversification, making it important for evolutionary and developmental studies in marine invertebrates. Madidi National Park in Bolivia spans from the lowland Amazon rainforest up to the snowy peaks of the Andes. This range of elevation supports extraordinary biodiversity. With over 11,000 plant species and hundreds of endemic animals, it's currently considered the most biologically diverse protected area on Earth. The park's varied ecosystems make it a valuable site for long-term ecological and climate-related research. The bola spider uses a unique method to catch prey. Instead of building a web, it mimics the scent of female moths by releasing chemical pheromones. Male moths are attracted to the signal, at which point the spider captures them using a sticky blob of silk swung on a thread. It can adjust its scent each night to match whichever moth species is active in the area. Graptolites were colonial marine organisms that lived during the Paleozoic era. Their remains often appear as saw blade-like imprints in shale, dating from around 500 to 400 million years ago. Because their species evolved rapidly and were widely distributed, graptolite fossils are used as index fossils to precisely date sedimentary rock layers in marine geology. The giant golden-crowned flying fox, found in the Philippines, is one of the world's largest bats, with a wingspan reaching up to 1.7 meters. It feeds entirely on fruit and plays a key ecological role as a pollinator and seed disperser in island rainforests. Its conservation is closely tied to preserving the forest ecosystems it helps sustain. Nazca boobies, native to the Galapagos Islands, typically raise only one chick. The parents lay 2 eggs, but the older chick consistently kills the younger shortly after hatching. This behavior, known as obligate siblicide, is believed to be an evolutionary adaptation to uncertain food conditions, ensuring that at least one offspring survives during periods of scarcity. Roughly 300 million years ago, during the late Carboniferous period, Earth's vast tropical rainforests underwent a collapse. Climate changes reduced global humidity, fragmenting swampy forest habitats. This led to a decline in large amphibians and opened ecological space for reptiles, which were better suited to the drier conditions that followed. The Byblos syllabary is an undeciphered writing system discovered in modern-day Lebanon. Inscriptions using this script date back to the 2nd millennium BCE and appear to represent a phonetic way of writing, possibly related to early Semitic languages. Unlike Egyptian or Phoenician scripts, it has no known deciphered relatives, and its purpose remains unclear. The zebra duiker is a small antelope species found in the forests of West Africa. It has black stripes across its reddish-brown body and a slightly arched back. Unlike other antelopes, it often lives alone and roots around for fallen fruits using its snout, a behavior more commonly associated with pigs than with hoofed animals. The mushroom Amanita muscaria, with its red cap and white spots, has been used in Siberian shamanic rituals for its psychoactive effects. Ethnobotanical records report that its hallucinogenic compounds pass through the body largely unchanged, and in some communities, people consume the urine of someone already intoxicated to experience the effects a second time. Sea otters survive cold ocean waters using fur rather than fat. Their fur is the densest of any mammal, with up to 1 million hairs per square inch. These hairs trap layers of insulating air close to the skin, allowing sea otters to stay warm without blubber. Maintaining this fur requires frequent grooming to preserve its insulating properties. Edgerine is a dark green to black mineral composed of sodium and iron silicate. It forms in igneous and metamorphic rocks, especially in alkaline volcanic environments. Its long, narrow crystal shape and distinctive coloration make it useful in identifying the geochemical conditions of ancient rock formations during geological surveys. The Moraki boulders on New Zealand's Otago coast are large, nearly spherical concretions. They formed over millions of years as minerals accumulated around a core in sedimentary rock. Some are over 2 meters in diameter. Maori tradition tells stories about these stones as remnants of canoe cargo, a cultural layer added to a slow geological process. The blue button, Porpita porpita, floats on the ocean surface but is not a jellyfish. It's a colonial organism, made up of many tiny individuals called zooids that work together as one unit. It uses a gas-filled disc to stay afloat and catches prey with stinging tentacles. Though delicate in appearance, it's well adapted to life at the surface of tropical seas. The Tristan da Cunha archipelago is the most isolated inhabited island group on the planet, located in the South Atlantic Ocean, over 2,000 kilometers from the nearest continental landmass. Its remoteness has led to a small population with shared ancestry and a limited number of family names. Genetic studies and local records reflect how long-term isolation can shape both social and biological patterns in small communities. The Diomede Islands, separated by only 4 kilometers in the Bering Strait, lie on opposite sides of the international date line. Big Diomede belongs to Russia, while Little Diomede is part of the United States. Despite their proximity, the islands are divided by both time and politics. One exists in today, the other in tomorrow. Their geography illustrates how geopolitical borders sometimes intersect in surprisingly narrow spaces. Meridus volans, commonly called the peacock spider, is a small Australian arachnid known for its intricate mating display. The male raises colorful flaps and performs a rhythmic dance while producing vibrations. If the female responds negatively, she may attack. This behavior reflects selective mating strategies seen across species, but with unusually elaborate movement for an arthropod only a few millimeters long. The Ural pictograms are large prehistoric rock carvings found in the Ural Mountains of Russia. Dating back to around 4000 BCE, they depict boats, humans, and geometric shapes. These images, etched along river cliffs, are considered among the earliest known large-scale petroglyphs in Eurasia. Their meaning remains uncertain, but they offer insight into symbolic communication in ancient northern communities. The Great Serpent Mound in Ohio is a prehistoric earthwork that stretches over 400 meters in a winding, snake-like form. Its head aligns with the setting sun during the summer solstice. Though its exact builders remain uncertain, it is often attributed to indigenous cultures such as the Adena or Fort Ancient. The mound reflects an early integration of landscape, astronomy, and cultural symbolism. Diaphanization is a technique used in biological research to render animal specimens transparent while staining their bones and cartilage in color. Developed in the early 20th century, it allows detailed study of internal anatomy without dissection. The method is especially useful in comparative embryology and is often used to prepare specimens for museum education and display. Anomalocaris, a marine animal from the Cambrian period, had highly complex compound eyes with over 16,000 lenses. These visual systems were likely among the most advanced of their time, enabling the animal to detect motion and light with great precision. This capability supported its role as an active predator in oceans over 500 million years ago. Devil's Tower in northeastern Wyoming is a natural igneous formation that rose through sedimentary rock and cooled into tall, hexagonal columns. The rock type is phonolite porphyry, and the structure is thought to have formed during the Paleogene period. In 1906, it was designated as the first United States national monument, reflecting early conservation efforts based on geological interest. Southern China's karst sinkholes are deep vertical pits formed by the erosion of soluble limestone. Some of these depressions reach depths over 200 meters and contain isolated forests at the bottom. These environments host unique species of plants and animals that have evolved with limited outside contact, making them natural laboratories for studying ecological separation and adaptation. Agagropala lineae, often called marimo or lake balls, are spherical algae that grow by rolling on lake beds in gentle currents. Their symmetrical form results from this continuous motion. They occur naturally in a few cold freshwater lakes, such as Lake Akan in Japan and Lake Mývatn in Iceland, and are culturally significant in some regions as symbols of good fortune and longevity. The pig-nosed turtle lives in northern Australia and southern New Guinea. It is the only living representative of its family and has distinctive flipper-like limbs, a leathery shell, and a flexible, pig-like snout. Unlike most freshwater turtles, it shares physical traits with marine species, and its evolutionary lineage dates back to the Cretaceous period. The deep scattering layer refers to daily vertical migrations by marine organisms such as fish, shrimp, and zooplankton. These animals ascend toward the surface at night and descend during the day, forming dense layers that reflect sonar. In early submarine operations, this phenomenon was mistakenly identified as the ocean floor. It represents one of the planet's largest daily movements of biomass. The Stenocara beetle of the Namib Desert collects drinking water from fog. Its hardened shell is covered in small bumps that trap moisture from morning fog, directing droplets into its mouth. This adaptation allows the beetle to survive in a region that receives less than 15 millimeters of rainfall per year. It illustrates how life adjusts to extreme scarcity. The Dogon people of Mali have long included celestial bodies in their cultural knowledge, including Sirius B, a white dwarf star not visible without a telescope. While some have suggested ancient awareness of binary star systems, most scholars consider this a result of modern influence during 20th century ethnographic studies. The story remains an example of how scientific ideas can enter traditional beliefs. Feather stars are marine animals in the crinoid class, related to sea stars and sea urchins. They use feathery arms to capture plankton from passing water currents. Although many crinoids are stationary, feather stars can swim by rhythmically moving their arms. This ability is rare among echinoderms and allows them to reposition in reef environments or escape disturbance. The Almagest, compiled by Claudius Ptolemy in the 2nd century CE, presented a detailed geocentric model of the cosmos. It contained a star catalog of over 1,000 entries and introduced trigonometric methods that remained influential through the Islamic Golden Age and into medieval Europe. Though its central premise was later revised, its mathematical framework endured for centuries. Ophiolite complexes are geological formations where sections of oceanic crust have been pushed onto continental land by tectonic collisions. These sites often contain deep-sea rocks, such as basalt, gabbro, and ultramafic mantle materials. Studying ophiolites allows geologists to examine ancient oceanic processes without deep-sea drilling, offering a rare glimpse into Earth's internal dynamics. The lobed comb jelly is a marine species that consumes large quantities of zooplankton. It was introduced into the Black Sea during the 1980s, likely through ballast water from ships. With few natural predators in the region, its population expanded rapidly, disrupting food chains and contributing to the collapse of local fisheries. Its spread is now closely monitored in other seas. The Karakoram anomaly describes a pattern in which some glaciers in the Karakoram mountain range, part of the greater Himalayas, have remained stable or grown slightly over recent decades. This contrasts with global trends of glacial retreat. Researchers link this behavior to specific atmospheric conditions, including changes in snowfall and regional wind circulation, rather than to global temperature averages alone. That's all 363 facts If even one made you think, smile, or see the world differently, mission complete. If you want more like this, you know what to do. See you in the next one.